Hey guys, it's me again. Long time no see. Hey guys, it's me again. I'm just looking at the chat real quick. I was just over on Allie's channel real quick, so I need to turn off my sound. I forgot my headphones downstairs, so hopefully I do not need them. Hi Tracy. Hey, you guys miss me? I'm back already. Isn't that crazy? Hey Fen, thank you for being here again. Julie should be joining me. Hi Travis, I'm so glad to see you. I was worried about you this morning. Oh, got a message from Julie. Okay, she's almost ready. So Julie she'll be here when she pops in. It's okay, I wanted to take a few minutes at the beginning anyway. One thing I wanted to talk about, there's not that many people here yet. Maybe I'll wait a minute. Well, I'll just go over the usual spiel again. Hi there. Just again, to remind everybody that the links to donate to the guys are, why is my lips look so weird? The links for the guys are in the description of the video, but then you will also have Fen and probably Linda might pop in too to post the links in case you can't find them. I want to remind everybody, because we've having an issue with this, that if you use PayPal, try to remember to use the friends and family option, because then they don't take out any fees. We've had a few really odd amounts come through in the last shift, and that usually means that people didn't select friends and family, and so they the fees are getting taken out. We don't really want that to happen. So so if you do that, if you use that, please remember to select that. And the GoFundMe is going to take out fees no matter what. We can't do anything about that. Was the defense not allowed to test the light that was in the back of RAV4? No, they did not. She was not allowed to test that. I'm going to talk about that for just a second, because I think there may have been some miscommunication from my last video, and it was just brought up on Allie's, and I just cleared it up over there. I'll get to that in 1 second. I just want to make sure I get through the rest of this. So for international donors, you can donate through GoFundMe, and then there's also a link if you want to donate directly to Steve's trust. Rhonda, where are you located? Because they should only take out fees in PayPal if you use friends and family if you're in international. That's the only time they should. Otherwise, they shouldn't take out any fees if it's a domestic donation. So yeah, if you want to donate to Steve's trust, that's a separate thing, and that is something that'll be used as a release fund. If Steve is not, I was trying to figure out what you were trying to say, Jane. If that is something that is a release fund, nobody can touch that but Steve. If he is not released for any reason, then it would go to his estate. That is up to him to decide who that would be. I do not know. I just want to make sure everybody is clear that that's where that money would go. So, okay, so to your question, that has the defense not got the right to test the light in the back of the RAV4? That would have been something she would have had to fight for when it was still back in the circuit court before the petition was filed. That was one of those things they were still negotiating on. So, oh, Vanessa, that was you. You know, I talk so fast, and I hadn't slept, and I've still only slept an hour, like an hour and 15 minutes is all that I slept. I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? You're gonna wake up already? The thing was is that I had said that prior to the judge ruling on the original petition, Kathleen and Fallon had made an agreement to do some additional testing. And I believe what was included was that pelvic bone, as well as the hood latch, and she would have been allowed to have access to the RAV. And 2 weeks later, the court ruled. And so since Kathleen had not had a chance to notify the court of that agreement, that agreement became null and void, because once the judge ruled, the case was done. It was considered closed at the circuit level. So it wasn't just that Kathleen had the opportunity to test the RAV and didn't take it. It was that, you know, she had made the agreement with them, and because the judge had ruled before she had a chance to notify them, she lost that opportunity, unfortunately. Oh yes, if you use a credit card, then it may charge you a fee. I have to go to the Hangouts window and figure out why maybe it's just my lighting is bad. Yeah, well, no, it's like my lip has got like, I don't know. It's driving me crazy. I look like the Joker or something. Okay, sorry. It's bad when you see it in the screen and it's like, what's going on there? Okay, so yeah, so I got the donation stuff out of the way. I think we are creeping up on the $2,000 mark, which is amazing. If it is international, does it show up? I think usually it does. Usually it should tell you that that they're taking out fees for the international fees and also for any conversion. But yeah, so if you're using a credit card, that's different. If you're using a bank account, then that usually don't take any fees then. Can they test if they get an evidentiary hearing? No, not necessarily, because an evidentiary hearing, I need to talk slower, is based on whatever the court limits it to. So let's say it's on this bones issue, then that is all that can be pursued in the hearing. They can't go outside that scope. Now, if his case is overturned, his conviction's overturned, and he's granted a new trial, then yeah, then everything's fair game. He has absolute access to all of that evidence then. I just answered that, Russell. No, not if a hearing is granted in an issue separate from that. When they have an evidentiary hearing, it is only based on whatever the court limits it to. You can't just do whatever you want at that point. No, that was a written agreement she wrote it down. I don't know if we actually saw the actual written agreement between her and Fallon, so I'm not really sure. Yeah, that's what it might have been an oral agreement, and she was planning on getting it written down and having them both sign it, and that might be why it took longer to get before she notified the court. It might have been taking her a little longer to get it written down and get them to both to sign it. So yeah, we don't really know. And I just said on Allie's channel that we also don't know if Kathleen did assign to somebody in her office, a clerk or something, to notify the court about the amendment forthcoming and additional testing being agreed to. And we don't know. It's possible. I thought it was 1,300. I thought it said 1,800. Okay, so I lied. It wasn't close to 2,000. Boy, I got excited there for a minute. Okay, well, 1,300 is still great. I'm not saying it's not at all. So we're coming up on a $1,500 mark. So hey, let's see what we can do if we can push it this in the next 4 hours. Let's make that our goal, up to 1,500.
That's a good goal. And
yeah.
Hi. I'm just popping on for just a second to say hello to you. I'm glad you came on with me for the last couple of minutes.
It's funny because I was actually just going to walk back out of the room because I wanted to go grab my headphones when I heard my name. I was like, okay, got to sit back down and take care of that.
Oh, girl, we've been talking about that for at least like 45 minutes. We're like, well, we'll just wait. Tracy will be here at like 8:45. She'll be here, and then we can ask her. Don't let me forget. Don't let me forget.
When I first turned it on again, you guys were still talking about the Skinner stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to run downstairs. And then when I come back, then I'll pop on. And then you said my name first. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that first and forget my headphones. If I need them, I'll go run down and get them. So basically, KZ can no longer get her hands on the RAV4, not until she has the procedural mechanism to do so. And that would be if there was a new trial granted. Or if, for some reason, the state agreed to it, even though I don't see you. I slept for an hour and 15 minutes. So yes, we sleep.
I slept for an hour. So I'm with you there. Oh my gosh. I just couldn't. I'm so excited. I want to watch everybody, and I'm still talking to people, and I'm sure you are too.
I wanted to listen to the beginning of Air Cozies because I wanted to hear when Seven Pop was on, and I wanted to hear when Jinx and Andy were on, and I just passed out. That's why I was shocked that I only slept a little over an hour. I was like, are you kidding me? Come on. Why is it taking the court so long to come back with an answer? Well, I said this before. The court actually has 90 days. They can actually take an additional 90 days if they need to. It shouldn't take that long. The only concern I have is that usually it does not take a judge this long if they're going to grant a hearing. They usually want to get that on the books, get it scheduled. Kiki, I think you asked another question earlier and I missed it. Oh, what is my Facebook page? Okay, here's the deal. The mods can put up my link to my Facebook page. Due to some issues we were having, my admins took the group secret for a little while. None of us were aware that you can't change it back for 28 days. So my group is secret. So even if you look for it, you can't find it right now. But keep the link handy, and next week you can join my group.
Oh,
It's
I
such
didn't know
bad
that.
timing. Yeah, I think I knew that at once upon a time, but I didn't even think about it. They told me they changed it to secret. I'm like, fine, whatever. That's probably best for now. And it didn't even occur to me that we wouldn't be able to change it back in time for MaM-a-thon. So I tried to do it the other day, and I was like, ah, crap. So, oops.
That's fun. Oh, thank you, Cindy. Oh, well, I'm gonna pop off of here and go just hang out in the chat with everybody else and watch and learn and have fun.
Okay.
But thank you and have a good night. I look forward to seeing what you're gonna do.
When are you on again?
4 o'clock in the morning, I think.
I better be sleeping. But no matter what, I'll pop on at the end because I start again at 9. So
Okay. I think I'm there 4 to 9. I don't remember,
I'll
honestly.
probably be around in the morning. Hopefully I'll be sleeping.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys have fun. I'll see you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, Fen, can you post the link to my group in there? Do you mind? Or Allie, one of you can grab it. Real Crime Story says that if there's a link, people can still ask. Okay, that would be great if they could, because then it'd be fine. I thought I could only invite people, but I wasn't sure. So one of the other things I wanted to say was, first off, I really hope that everybody that was with me earlier today enjoyed the chat with Michael. And if you did, let me know. I thought that was really great of him to give me that much time. We talked for about an hour and 45 minutes. I thought it was interesting, but I'm terrible to judge because I always think the law is interesting. So not everybody does, but usually if you're in my group or watching my videos, you must find the law a little bit interesting. So what is that? How long does it take for the state to respond? No, the state can't file anything else. We're just waiting for the judge right now. That's it. Am I coming back? Well, I think I'm kind of back right now. So, yeah. And I'm sorry, Travis, I'm trying to read there's another part to it the judge ruled on. Before testing, Casey explained to the judge that there was an agreement with the state, but she would have none of it. Yeah, she explained that in the motion to vacate, which, I mean, the judge is not going to vacate their order. So, great, Jamie. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks, Janet. Carrie, thank you for your donation. Travis, I'm glad you liked it. I'm sorry we missed you this morning because you probably would have liked to have chimed in on that. It's my welcome back party. Let's not get carried away. But it's fun to be back. It's a little stressful, but it is fun to be back. For now, I think I just need to maybe kind of ease my way back into the group and everything. But I know I will come back to the group. I just have to, like I said, ease my way back in a little bit. Everything got a little overwhelming. One thing I do want to say, and I didn't want to say it this morning because I wanted to be careful not to say anything that somebody didn't want me to say. I have to give a huge, huge thank you and shout out to 7 Pairs of Panties from Reddit and Twitter. She's actually the one who first contacted Michael for me. And I was going to say something this morning, but I know that some people really just want to stay in the background and they don't want anybody to know. And then I felt bad about it. So I talked to her in between and I said, is it okay? Because I didn't want to, do anything you didn't want me to do. And she's like, no, that's fine. So I do want to make sure I give her a big thank you and give her all the credit for getting me in contact with him, because it would never have even occurred to me to ask. So that was really, really great of her. And along with that, it's 1,400 that we raised. Well, wow, we'll get to that 1,500 easy. Yes, and 7 Pairs of Panties has actually helped everyone hook up with guests. So she has been amazing. And we appreciate that kind of help and support so much. And when I was talking to Michael and I had that one comment where I was frustrated. I know I was frustrated. I don't know if you could tell I was frustrated, but it was this concept of truth and how the investigators are supposed to search for the truth. The judges and the prosecutor are supposed to search for the truth during a trial. When you have experts that are dealing with science, they are supposed to be searching for the truth. And yet all that ends up happening is you have, investigators with tunnel vision that only care about arrest records. You have prosecutors that only care about conviction rates, arrest rates and conviction rates. You have experts that only want to protect the state's butt, and everybody wants to protect the verdict. and there's no room for truth. And while we are having all these amazing guests on, these people who are spending every day, day in and day out, seeking the truth, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. It's not our job. It's not what we should have to be doing, but somebody has to do it. And so many people have stepped up to help in this grand search for the truth. And I don't know if we'll ever find it. I hope that we do, for all of our sanity. I hope that we do. But at least we're always working towards that, which is more than any agent of the state ever did. None of them even tried to get to the truth. Right, Travis said he wasn't surprised at all. And I said I had pretty much knew that was going to be his answer. I had asked him if, when he watched Making a Murder, if he was shocked or if he was kind of like, yep, that's about right. And I knew what the answer was going to be. And it's unfortunate I knew what the answer could be, but his answer was nope, wasn't shocked at all. See that kind of thing all the time. That's how it works in Wisconsin. That is true. I mean, it is true that the defense, sometimes the defense does care about the truth, because especially if they think their client is innocent, that they will look for the truth on behalf of their client. Some defense lawyers don't care. I mean, they're just like all about, well, Len Kaczynski certainly didn't care. He was all about just getting a plea and not having to deal with this anymore. And oh yes, thank you, JJax. Thank you. Switch to live chat. Julie is the one that always reminds us. On the top of the chat, you'll see it usually defaults to saying top chat. Make sure you select live chat. Update, we're over $1,555. You guys are amazing. That is so awesome. That is incredible.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, and this is the start of our final 24 hours. So this is our last push, this last 24 hours. So that is so incredible. Our original goal was $2,000, and I thought at first that might be too crazy, but then I was like, you know what? Let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing, and then we raised it a little too high probably. But I'd rather aim for the stars and fall a little short than not aim high enough. That's my saying.
I agree.
Yes. So, but I just wanted to make sure that I said thank you to everybody, because I know we have a lot of people that are watching from MaM-a-thon, and all of you out there that are doing something to search for the truth. I just want to say thank you and keep doing what you're doing. And it does matter. I don't know if it will get them out of prison. I hope it does, but it still matters. Just knowing that there are people out there who are willing to not settle for the status quo of what we have in this justice system is amazing. Okay, Jamie just said that if it reverts back to the top, it will revert back to the top chat if you're idle for a while. So keep talking and that won't happen. That's the solution.
I've never seen it revert back when I'm idle, but I'm always on a computer. I don't know if it does that on a phone or not. But I know if you click out of the window and you come back, it'll go back to top chat. It drives me nuts.
I'm still kind of new to this whole YouTube thing, and I don't really chat a whole lot in the chats. So do I ever worry the state will come after me for what? No, no. And people always make comments like, I'm not going to step foot in Wisconsin. I'm not going to step foot in Manitowoc. I've spent a lot of time in Manitowoc County since this happened, and I have never had a problem. Especially when we go to the rally, because I do want to remind everybody that this is also to remind everybody about the upcoming rally, and I would love to see as many people there as possible. The rally is held at the courthouse. The courthouse is in the city of Manitowoc. That is ruled by the city police, not by the county sheriff's department. And they have always been very nice to us when we have been there for the rallies. They will come around and they'll make sure that we have enough. When it's hot, they'll make sure we have water. They'll make sure that we have a place to go to the bathroom on a Saturday when the courthouse is closed. And so, yeah, they have actually been very, very good to us when we were there for the rallies. So I don't want everyone to think that, if you go to Manitowoc, oh my gosh, look out, chances are you're going to get arrested. So, no, we have to remember who the wrongdoers are, and that is the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. not the Manitowoc PD.
We got another $20.
You guys are amazing. This is just, it's just incredible what people can do when they work together.
No,
And that's
awesome.
one of the reasons I want to do this, because we're all doing our own thing, and that's great. But I really want, to see where we can all come together and do something to make a difference, or at least bring more awareness, get more people to the rally, help, raise some money for the guys, whatever good we can do. I wanted us to be able to do that. When is the rally? It is June 15th, and it is in Manitowoc at the courthouse. And I believe it was from 11 to 3. Is that when it was? I didn't know this morning.
Yes, that's what you said earlier.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was 11 to 3. It was Courtney that said it, and I can't remember now.
I think that's what she said.
Yeah. Oh, there's a page. Thanks, Ben. Please click on, Fen just posted the link to the rally support page, and that'll have all the information there.
Jane.
How many show up on average for the rally? We really have only been having about 50 people. And it's really hard because, we want to do it when the weather's nice, but that also conflicts with graduations and I couldn't go one year because I was at a wedding. And so, June is a tough time because that's, people have a lot of things going on. Sometimes they do their family vacations, but that's when it's been best for the family. And so that's when we've done that, because usually people do want to try to go out to the yard and, and meet the family and meet the parents, meet, mom and pa. So that's when we've done it that way. And unfortunately that's not always the best schedule for people. I've actually missed twice because I've missed twice because of having other conflicts. So it's just, it's the beginning of summer and everybody all of a sudden wants to go do things, I guess. Yeah, I would really like to see a ton this year too. It would be right. And, what I said this morning, I wanted to remind people that a lot of the reason why I hear a lot of people don't go is that because they don't know anybody. They don't, and they're afraid they're not going to know anybody. Trust me, not a problem. You'll get to know people. So even if you can find somebody maybe to room with or to drive with, even if possible, then yeah, but don't worry about coming and being like, nobody's going to talk to you. If nobody talks to you, then come up and talk to me because I am bad. I don't know a lot of faces, but a lot of people do just come up to me. And I think that's amazing. I'm so happy that people come up and introduce themselves. Okay, so there's some questions here. Kiki, how did I get involved with this case? Just like everybody else, I watched Making a Murderer and was just like, what? What is wrong with this place? And I actually, a Facebook group that had just started, I joined it, and then I was asked to be an admin right away, and I've been involved ever since in one way or another. Do you think criminal shows and ID programs have influenced people to assume guilty? I think yes. I think they influence it to whatever way they want to influence. I fully admit I was an ID junkie. I loved watching the ID channel. I had it on all day. Hi, Andy. I'm sorry I missed you earlier. I really want to hear you guys, but I was just dead. I was up for at that point, 27 hours or 29 hours. I needed to sleep. But I loved watching all the ID shows. And then when I got so involved in this case, and obviously I knew the truth about it, and I watched ID's show on this case, and I saw how terrible it was and just how much misinformation. I have, honest to God, not watched a single show on ID since then, because I just felt like I can't trust anything I watch on there anymore. I just can't. So, and it's a shame because I really do like those shows, but if I'm just being fed up, the agenda of whoever made it, then I don't want to waste my time on it. There was a show that was on ID based on this case, and it was just it was the usual crap. They had Fassbender on and Kratz on and saying all this stuff that had already been debunked, that people had already proven was a lie, and they were still just putting it up there. And it was disappointing to watch, because I had always trusted that ID was the channel to watch if you want to know about true crime. Who's Angry Grandma? I saw Eric Hosey first by accident. Well, that's the only explanation.
I know who would watch them on purpose.
Yeah, I know who would do that on purpose to themselves. Just kidding. We love you. My viewers are amazing. They are amazing. The people in my group are amazing. The people that on here are amazing. I've met a lot of wonderful people. And that's the one thing, no matter what, how crazy this case makes me, I made a lot of great friends, and I have a dog because of it.
An adorable dog.
I know, no matter what, I would not have justice if it wasn't for this case. Not doing a good job for Stephen. What are your thoughts on this? I am not a huge fan, but I also have background stuff that a lot of people don't know. So, and I'm not going to elaborate on that. It's just that I have more information on a personal level. But I also did not think that some of the stuff they did. I'm very disappointed in their lack of investigation. That's the biggest point. For people that don't know, yeah, I have a law background, but I was a private investigator and I worked for attorneys. And it's just inexcusable to me how little investigation. Oh gosh, Andy, that was so disappointing to me. I love Homicide Hunter. I loved Homicide Hunter. And then I went to CrimeCon and I saw Carl Marino being buddies with Ken Kratz. And then I saw those ridiculous tweets where Stephen Avery is guilty. And that was it. Never watched Homicide Hunter again. I hold a grudge, man. I really do. But that pissed me off because I loved watching Homicide Hunter. And I have not watched it. I know, poor Justice. I had to lock her out of here because she'd be driving me crazy. Maybe tomorrow I'll do the usual and just hang out on my chair and she can be on my lap since everyone misses Justice. Oh, Andy, did you get blocked by Carl? Good for you. I was so sickened by that whole thing. And I had to deal with Nancy Grace on top of it and her crap.
Ew.
And I will say this, that first year at CrimeCon, while Leah was telling everybody like how Ken was the star of the show, I was there the entire weekend. I saw everybody that was at CrimeCon, everybody that was, I did happen to see Fassbender, funny story about that. But the entire time I was there, and I was always walking back and forth between the rooms, walking down Podcast Row, going to, do the signings. I never once saw Ken Kratz. And I didn't have to avoid him either. I just never saw him. So he was hardly the star of the show. Where I talked to Jim Clemente like every time I walked by, who actually was pretty much the center of attention at that time. So good job, Jinx. Kept blocked. I think I would consider that an honor, getting blocked. So no, he was not the star attraction. And the funny thing about Fassbender, and I wish I would have had a camera because I had never seen him before. And I was standing outside and they had this smoking area. And if you're standing on this side, the smoking area was supposed to be on one side. And there's a sign that says no smoking beyond this point. And Fassbender and his wife were standing right past the sign because it said by city ordinance, no smoking past this point. And I wish I would have had a picture. No one's going to get in trouble for that, but I thought it would have been hilarious if I could have caught him and his wife. He wasn't smoking, his wife was, behind the sign that said no smoking by state ordinance behind this line. I just thought it was hilarious, but I didn't have my phone with me. I was just walking through. But that would have been funny, I thought. That would have been a great meme. No, I never saw Kratz. The only time I've seen Kratz in person is, unfortunately, when I sat right behind him at Brendan's oral arguments, right behind him and Leah. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. That's why I give Laverky a lot of credit because I had to sit behind him and it was like nauseating. I just took everything I had. I wanted to be there in that proceeding very badly. That's the only thing that kept me from at least saying something that would have gotten me kicked out.
Did he smell of sweat?
Okay, here's the thing. Okay. She was doing the whole rubbing his back and then rubbing his hair. God, why are you making me remember that? It's horrible. And I am not overreacting. That was my reaction. It was horrible. He couldn't see the picture because he was blind. Yeah. I'm getting sick. I know. Imagine how I feel. That just brought up a very traumatic memory for me.
TMI.
I know. I had to see it. Come on. Sorry, Allie, you'd have nightmares after that image. Yeah, I did too, Lori. I threw up in my mouth too. It was horrible. It really was. It was not a pleasant experience.
So let's change the subject. We have $1,605.83 donated for Brendan and Stephen.
That's why we've been chatting this little bit. I feel like I'm an idiot because I just keep saying thank you over and over again, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I really do. That I mean, it's not like it's about me, but I appreciate that you're all here, joining us. And yeah, me too. You want to? Oh, I'm not going to mention it. I'm glad Leah's much younger than me. She actually went to my high school. Yeah, she's from my hometown. It's called Dirty Stella, so that makes you feel better. That's the nickname for it. Luckily, she's much younger than me, and I didn't have to see her ever. So anyway, okay, so Julie.
Hi.
You want to talk about something today. Oh, I should say, before we get started, I hope you guys can stick around with me tonight at around 11:30 tonight after Julie and I are done. Well, we might not ever be done, but you know what I mean. I actually have a very special guest on. My daughter, Taylor, is she is actually graduating in a few weeks with her master's in medical legal death investigation. She has her bachelor's in biology and forensic investigation. She's been working as an MDI, medical death investigator, for the last year. And she's going to come on and talk to us about forensic science and death investigation and answer some of these wonderful questions we have about proper procedure and how things should be handled and, whether a coroner should be allowed on a scene, things like that. So hopefully you guys can stick with me later till later tonight. It'll be a little bit late, but that's when she can make it on. So she's in Syracuse. So it'll be 12:30 her time. So it'll definitely be late. But anyway, so before we get started, I just want to say, if you can stick around, please do. Okay, Julie, go ahead.
Okay, so the other day, well, let me start over with this. So I'm going to school right now. I am working on getting my bachelor's in accounting. And after that, my plan is to go to law school so that I can be a business attorney. And so the class that I'm taking right now is critical thinking. And critical thinking is something that doesn't necessarily come natural to me. And so this class has been very, very difficult. But we were on a chapter a couple weeks ago talking about logical fallacies. And as they are talking about these fallacies and these arguments, I kept thinking about this case, and I kept thinking about the things that so many different players in this case have said. And I mentioned it during a live chat, and Travis suggested, hey, Julie, you should go over that stuff. I was like, hey, that's a good idea. So these things are things that you want to look out for. When somebody's making an argument for anything, you want to look out for these things to make sure that what they're saying has merit. So I have a little presentation that I have prepared. So let me get that started, and then I will screen share. And I can probably make it so that I can see the chat while I'm doing this, I hope. Okay. And hopefully I can screen share without my computer flashing, because we don't want any strobe lights again.
That was just weird before. I don't know why it was doing that.
Yeah, I don't know why it was doing that either, but I need a new computer. I've had it for like 5 years now. And so it's just like not having it anymore. Okay. So share. So can everybody see that?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. Going to move this over here so that I can see my notes.
I feel like I'm in class now.
I know, right? There we go. I'm going to close my links and, whoops. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to show that.
You're not being graded. You're good.
Okay, good. Fen is still here. I assume, Fen, I can't see the donations right now.
I can look.
So,
Well, no, I can't because I can't see GoFundMe.
yeah, I closed right, but I closed the chart and everything, so I can't see anything.
That I can see. I just can't see if anything has been added to the GoFundMe.
Okay. So, all right, let's go. So, logical fallacies. So the first thing that you want to look at is what is an argument, because this is all based on arguments, and an argument is not, it has different definitions. So when I say argument, I don't mean fighting with somebody or having a disagreement. So in this context, an argument is an attempt to support or prove a contention by providing a reason for accepting it. So the contention itself is called the conclusion. The statement offered as support is referred to as the premise. So you've got a premise and a conclusion, and those two things make up the argument. And an argument can have more than one premise. It can have more than one supporting statement. It's not necessarily just one. So the premise is the claim in an argument thought to support or demonstrate the conclusion. And this is kind of background so that you can, going forward, you'll understand what these things mean. The conclusion is the claim in an argument. I pasted the wrong thing. It's thought to be supported or demonstrated by another claim. So that's your conclusion of the argument. I reviewed this, I promise. I've had very little sleep though. So in an argument, the claim,
none of us have slept.
Right. The claim thought to be supported or demonstrated by another claim referred to as the premise. Yeah, I did these backwards. I'm sure you guys get this, right? So the premise is what is supporting your conclusion, and your conclusion is what you're arguing, if that makes sense. So let's move on from this mess of a slide. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is a valid argument. And I know that you've all seen the memes online. Your argument is invalid. So this is what a valid argument is. An argument is valid if it isn't possible for the premise to be true and the conclusion false. So here's an example of a valid argument. Bear with me. Don't scream at me in the comments. Wait till I'm done with this because I know everybody's going to yell right now. Making a Murderer 1 was released in 2014 and Making a Murderer 2 was released in 2018. So the conclusion is Making a Murderer 1 was released before Making a Murderer 2. So this is a valid argument because if you look at the premises, Making a Murderer 1 was released in 2014, which is before 2018. So it is not possible. If that premise is true, it is not possible for this conclusion to be false. Does that make sense?
Yes.
To everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Now you notice that
Making a Murderer was released in 2015, but that's okay. Wasn't it?
Exactly. That's
Okay.
what I was just about to say. So you notice that the information in that premise is not accurate, but that's beside the point. It's still a valid argument. So Making a Murderer 1 was not released in 2014. It was released in 2015. But even though a premise of the preceding argument is not true, the argument is still valid because it isn't possible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false. So another way to say it is, if the premises were true, then the conclusion could not be false. And that's what valid means. So the next thing that we talk about is a sound argument. And a sound argument is when the premises of a valid argument are true, the argument is said to be sound. So here's the same example, but the premise is true. Making a Murderer 1 was released in 2015. Making a Murderer 2 was released in 2018. Conclusion, Making a Murderer 1 was released before Making a Murderer 2. This is a sound argument. So that's the difference between a valid argument and a sound argument. So somebody can have a valid argument, but that doesn't make it true. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being confusing?
No, I understand.
Okay. I want to make sure nobody else is okay. So this is what we're going to talk about, is relevance fallacies. So the other stuff was just sort of background. These are also called red herring fallacies. And I don't know if everybody is familiar with that term, but a red herring is something that is supposed to distract you. So the first one that we talk about is argumentum ad hominem, or argument to the person. So this type of argument is the most common fallacy, logical fallacy. The name translates as argument to the person. You commit this fallacy if you think you dismiss someone's position by dismissing him or her. So here's an example. You tell me it's dangerous to text when I'm driving, but I've seen you doing it. So the speaker is dismissing someone's claim that it's dangerous to drive and text. However, the fact that the other person texts while he or she is driving has no bearing on whether or not texting while driving is dangerous. So that's why this argument is a fallacy. It's a mistaken reasoning. It's also an example of a relevance fallacy because its premise, I've seen you doing it, is not relevant to the issue in question, whether texting and driving is dangerous. The prosecutor is an asshole. Another example, Travis says, all mammals are warm-blooded. Whales are mammals, therefore whales are warm-blooded. Whales are warm-blooded. Oh, that's another example of something. I don't know. That's not an example of what I was just saying. So I'm not even going to look at that. So does this make sense to everybody? That the person who's saying this is attacking the person instead of their argument. So the next one is, maybe I shouldn't move on until, like, does anybody have any questions about that? Did I explain that correctly for everybody? Should I wait to see if anybody has questions? What do you think, Tracy?
I understand.
Okay. All right.
And that's all that matters, of course.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the next one is, now these next few fall under the argument to the person type of fallacy. So argumentum ad hominem is a type of fallacy, and this is a fallacy that falls under that heading, basically. So poisoning the well. Sorry. This fallacy occurs when a speaker or writer attempts to dismiss what someone is going to say by talking about the person's character or circumstances or consistency. So someone might try to get you to dismiss what someone's going to say by talking about the person's consistency. So here is an example. You can ignore everything the defense attorney is going to say to you because he's going to lie to make his client look innocent. So in this example, the defense attorney hasn't said anything yet. The person who made this statement is poisoning the well, hoping we're not thinking critically and will dismiss whatever the defense attorney says when he does speak. The next one is guilt by association. Now, outside the logic classroom, The phrase guilt by association refers to the concept that a person is judged by the company he or she keeps. For example, if you hang out with unsavory people, then others may think that you also have unsavory qualities. But this, in this world, it means something different. So we use this phrase to explain a very common version of the argumentum ad hominem. So this is a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer tries to persuade us to dismiss a belief by telling us that someone we don't like has that belief. So here's an example. You think law enforcement did their jobs correctly? That sounds like something an uninformed guilter would say. So the statement, it doesn't explain, the speaker is not explaining why they don't think law enforcement did their jobs correctly. They're not giving you any background to make for that statement. They're trying to dismiss it by saying an uninformed guilter, which the speaker is assuming you don't like. The fact that somebody like that would say it should cause you to dismiss it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions? Do you I don't think you have questions, Tracy. You said it made sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay. If anybody starts saying that they need me to slow down, yell at me. I don't want to go too fast. I have a tendency to ramble on too fast sometimes. Okay, so the next one is genetic fallacy. So this is the last version of the argumentum ad hominem. It's known as the genetic fallacy. So a speaker or writer commits this fallacy when he or she argues that the origin of a contention in and of itself automatically renders it false. Okay, so here are a couple of examples. First of all, that idea is just absurd. It's something a YouTuber put out there. So this person is saying that it's absurd just because it's from YouTube. And that doesn't actually support why it's absurd. Or where on earth did you see that? Reddit. So this person is saying because it came from Reddit, it has no merit. And I see this stuff a lot as I've been getting deeper and deeper into this case and seeing all of the conversations and the discussion on it. People trying to dismiss claims that people are making just based on who's saying it or where it's coming from, instead of actually looking at the facts of what they're saying. And that's why I think this topic is really important. And I can always send these notes to anybody who wants them, but they could just rewatch the video.
I think we see this every day whenever you try to argue with a guilter.
Yeah, it's every single day.
Yeah.
So watch this video back again, you guys, and study up on this stuff, because man, this class was really informative. I learned a lot. So the next group of fallacies is called the straw man fallacy. And I think this is probably the one that people know the most. Like, this is the most well-known fallacy. So the straw man fallacy occurs when a speaker or writer attempts to dismiss a contention by distorting or misrepresenting it. So here is an example. You say, I think we should legalize medical marijuana. Your friend says, maybe you think everyone should go around stoned, but I think that's absurd. So your friend has transformed your position into one that nobody would accept. Right? They're completely misrepresenting what you said. And they've turned it into something that is very easy to discredit. Or they say he has set up a straw man, which is easy to knock over. So here is another example that just came to me the other day. You say, why was there no coroner called to the scene? The other person says, why would you think a coroner should be brought in? A coroner walks in, kicks the body, and says he's dead. Would make no sense to have a coroner there. Right there, misrepresenting what a coroner does and a coroner's validity in a situation like this. That immediately popped into my head when I saw that video. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Does anybody have the link to the video on Twitter with Ken and Andy?
Well, I'm sure someone can find it pretty fast.
Yeah, in case nobody's seen it. That's where I got that from. Yes, look in the trial transcripts, and I really wanted to get a lot more examples that were specifically taken from the documents of the case, and I ran out of time, honestly. So I tried to put in as many as I could. But it'll be good practice for you all to find it, because, I find personally that when I have to go looking for something myself, legal stain too, that's fantastic. When I have to go looking for something myself, I retain it better personally. But I did want to have more relevant examples for you guys, and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do that. So the difference between argumentum ad hominem and a straw man fallacy, whereas an argumentum ad hominem attempts to dismiss a claim on the basis of irrelevant considerations about the person making it, the straw man fallacy attempts to dismiss a claim by misrepresenting it. So that's the difference. Hopefully that wasn't more confusing. So the first one attacks the person saying it. The second one misrepresents what they said. Okay, so the next category of fallacies, false dilemma, ignoring other alternatives. So there are two false dilemma. Oh, well, let me rewind. False dilemma fallacy happens when someone tries to establish a conclusion by offering it as the only alternative to something we will find unacceptable, unattainable, or implausible. So there are two false dilemma arguments that are so common, they have their own names. The first one is the perfectionist fallacy. This is a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer ignores options between perfect and nothing. So here's an example of that. Discussing who deleted the voicemail isn't going to prove whether the defendant is innocent or guilty, so I don't see why we should discuss it. The person who said this is completely ignoring the fact. He's presented us with a perfectionist fallacy because he has restricted our options. He's arguing that unless discussing who deleted the voicemail is going to prove innocence or guilt, it's irrelevant. He has ignored the possibility that discussing it may point to another suspect or lead to reasonable doubt. He's completely ignored any of those other options. The next one is the line drawing fallacy. And this is a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer assumes that either a crystal clear line can be drawn between two things, or else there is no difference between them. So here's an example. It doesn't make sense to say that someone is rich. After all, nobody can say just how much money a person has to have in order to be rich. So the speaker has assumed that if we cannot say exactly how many dollars a person must have in order to be rich, then we can never say that person is rich. but he ignores the fact that there are obvious cases of rich people as well as people who are not rich. An imprecise line between the two is still useful. So here's another example of a person trying to argue that video games are not excessively violent. You can't say when a video game is too violent, therefore no video game is too violent. So this person has restricted our options to either being able to draw a clear line between violent and non-violent, which is implausible to think could be done, or not making a distinction between them at all. So he has ignored the possibility that an imprecise line can be drawn and that it might have some value in assessing level of violence. Whoops. I didn't know I could do that. That was cool. Sorry. Okay. So the next category is misplacing the burden of proof. So this is a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer attempts to support or prove a point by trying to make us disprove it. So the one that's most common is the appeal to ignorance. Oh, here, let me go back. So if your doctor says that you are infected with the West Nile virus, you'll say, "Doctor, what makes you think that?" And if she says, "What makes you think you aren't?" You'll get a new doctor, right? So her remark is absurd because it's her job to tell you why she thinks you're infected with West Nile, not your job to tell her why you think you aren't. So sometimes, as in this case, sometimes the burden of proof clearly falls more heavily on one side than another. When someone asserts that we should believe a claim because nobody has proved it false, that fallacy is a version of misplacing the burden of proof known as appeal to ignorance. So here's an example. Nobody has proved Teresa isn't alive, therefore she's alive. This is a fallacy because proof requires more than an absence of disproof. So you should always be suspicious when somebody regards your inability to disprove his or her position as evidence for it. Take note of where the burden of proof falls in such situations. Your speaker may be trying to erroneously place that burden on you. This probably happens the most that I've seen with guilters. This is the one that I've seen that happens most when talking to a lot of them. They're like, "Well, you can't prove it isn't true." Okay, but I'm not the one making the claim. You are. You're the one who has to prove it. So the next category, fallacy on its own, begging the question, assuming what you are trying to prove. So in everyday language, to beg the question has lately come to mean to simply raise the question. But in logic, begging the question means something else. A speaker or writer is guilty of begging the question logically when he or she tries to support a contention by offering as evidence what amounts to a repackaging of the very contention in question. I know that was a mouthful. I'm sorry I didn't put up the thing so you guys couldn't read along. So it's a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer tries to support or demonstrate a contention by offering as evidence or proof what amounts to a repackaging of the very contention in question. So here's an example. Obviously, Stephen is lying about where he was. He wouldn't tell the truth about it. So in essence, the reason given here for not believing Stephen is that he wouldn't tell the truth. This isn't exactly the same thing, but it's so close that it could not really be counted as evidence. If we aren't sure Stephen lied, we can't be sure he wouldn't tell the truth. So it's basically saying the same thing. Obviously he's lying because he wouldn't tell the truth. If an argument is of such a nature that a person who disputes its conclusion logically must also dispute its premise, then it begs the question. So here's another example of begging the question. That God exists is proved by Scripture because Scripture is the Word of God and thus cannot be false. If someone disputes that God exists, then he or she must also dispute that anything is the Word of God, if that makes sense. And just for the record, I'm not staking a claim either way. It's looking at the claim in and of itself, and this is one that is made by a lot of people. So here's another one. Women should not be allowed in combat because it is prohibited by the Defense Department. So this is merely saying that something shouldn't be allowed because it isn't allowed, which doesn't explain why it shouldn't be. Okay, so the next category, if you will, is the appeal to emotion. So when a speaker or writer supports a contention, and this is, we're almost done actually. When a speaker or writer supports a contention by playing on our emotions rather than producing a real argument, the result is the fallacy called an appeal to emotion. So the first, there are a few different little subcategories in this heading. First one is argument from outrage. So the argument from outrage attempts to convince us by making us angry rather than giving us a relevant argument. So here is an example that is unrelated to the case. Do you think Apple doesn't know it hires 12-year-old children to make its electronics? Do you think it isn't aware it pays them slave wages and has them work in buildings without heat or air conditioning? It knows. Apple products can't be any good. Okay, so the passage doesn't support the contention that Apple products aren't any good. Instead, it tries to induce us to have that belief by making us angry. So here's another example. You expect me to believe BP cleaned up its mess in the Gulf? Just look at those ads it runs, trying to make it sound like everything is beautiful and even better than before. Does the company take us for fools? So again, this argument has no probative weight. It tries to persuade us that BP hasn't cleaned up its mess by making us indignant, rather than by proving or supporting. The argument from outrage occurs frequently in political contexts where the conclusion is often just implied that we should vote against someone or something. And that's very true. This is something, all of these things are not just things that apply to this case. These things apply to everything that you experience. You know, when you're watching political debates on television, when it's voting season, when you are talking to people at work, when you are, you know, talking to your friends or other people you know. These are things that are all over the place. So the next one under the appeal to emotion fallacies is scare tactics. So the scare tactics fallacy occurs when a speaker or writer tries to scare us into accepting an irrelevant conclusion. It includes direct threats, which are sometimes called arguments from force. So here's an example of a scare tactic. Obviously, Stephen should be in prison. You agree with the rest of us on that, I assume. So the speaker hasn't given the listener a reason for Stephen to be in prison. They are simply trying to make the listener fear being made an outcast. And this is also sometimes called the peer pressure fallacy. The peer pressure fallacy is a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer tries to persuade us to do or accept something by playing on our fear of becoming an outcast if we don't. That happens a lot too. Peer pressure is very powerful. You might think it's easy to not give in to peer pressure. It's really freaking hard. Okay, so the next one is the appeal to pity. This is a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer attempts to convince us of something by arousing our pity rather than giving a relevant argument. So here's an example. Jane is the best qualified candidate. After all, she is out of work and desperately needs a job. So the speaker has not given a reason for thinking that Jane is the best qualified candidate. They're just tugging on our heartstrings. So here are some other ones that I actually don't have examples for, but they're pretty self-explanatory, I think. Emotions other than fear, anger, and pity are used to manipulate an audience into believing you're doing something. Instead of providing actual support for a claim, a speaker or writer may issue remarks designed to make us feel envious or jealous, proud, guilty, or anything else in the hope that we will then accept the claim. These other arguments have names. First one is apple polishing. This occurs when a speaker or writer supports a contention by trying to flatter us rather than by producing a real argument. Then, one that I know all of us are familiar with, guilt tripping. This occurs when someone supports a contention by trying to make us feel guilty rather than by producing a real argument. The next one, appeal to envy. When someone supports a contention by trying to make us envious rather than by producing a real argument. And the last one, I'm sure you can figure out from the name, appeal to jealousy, trying to make us jealous rather than by producing a real argument. So what these and the other appeals to emotion all have in common is that they actually are pieces of persuasion masquerading as arguments. These are just ways that people try to persuade you. They're not arguments in and of themselves. So this brings up the final and very important point about appeals to emotion. Considerations that truly support a contention often arouse our emotions. So you can't conclude just because someone appears to be trying to scare you or make you angry or feel some other way that he or she has committed a fallacy. If they offer evidence having probative value, then it's a mistake to consider the argument a fallacy. So here's an example of a legitimate argument, no fallacy, that might arouse a listener's pity. You should not, or you should let that dog out of your car because it is suffering from heat and thirst and will die very soon if you don't. So this is not the appeal to pity fallacy or any other kind of fallacy. The speaker has given us an excellent reason for letting the dog out of the car. If that makes sense. I mean, yeah, it's going to make us, it's going to appeal to, just going to tug on our heartstrings, but it still has probative value. So here is an example that might arouse somebody's fear in somebody. You should not drive on the 50 tonight. It is icy and dangerous and you could get killed. So this is not a scare tactic or anything like that because dangerous conditions on a road are relevant to whether or not we should drive on it, right? So you want to look at things carefully to see whether they're trying to produce an emotion without any backup. So I have one final example of this, which is relative to the case. A mentally deficient 16-year-old was taken from school and questioned by police over a period of 5 hours without an attorney or parent present. I missed the conclusion on this one. But you read this and a lot of us are going to get really upset by that, but that doesn't make it any less true. If that makes sense. Have I lost you, Tracy?
No, I'm here. I was thanking you. I'm sorry if you can hear me typing. I was just thanking everyone for the donations because
No.
gave another update on the donations. So.
Oh, yay. Yay. You guys are awesome. I just want to make sure I wasn't putting people to sleep. Have I put anybody to sleep? Okay, so here is, I think this is the last one. So relevance fallacies that do not fit comfortably into the above categories may be said to commit the fallacy of irrelevant conclusion. So here's the first one. 2 wrongs make a right. So this is a fallacy that occurs when a speaker or writer thinks that the wrongfulness of a deed is erased by its being a response to another wrongful deed. So here's an example. Why should I tell them they undercharged me? You think they would say something if they overcharged me? So this person is trying to justify not doing anything about having been undercharged. However, the fact that they, whoever they are, wouldn't inform him of an overcharge, assuming it's even true that they wouldn't, only supports a negative appraisal of their ethics, not a positive appraisal of his. So 2 wrongs don't make a right, which we're all familiar with, but a lot of people think it's justified. 2 other common irrelevant conclusion fallacies are wishful thinking and denial. Wishful thinking happens when we forget that wanting something to be true is irrelevant to whether or not it is true. Denial happens when we forget that wanting something to be false is irrelevant to whether or not it is false. Here's an example of wishful thinking. I really hope Stephen gets out of prison this year, therefore I'm sure he will. Well, we want that to be true, but whether we want it to be true or not is irrelevant to whether or not it is true. An example of denial, I'm positive there was no RAV4 on the Avery salvage yard like the photos show. I just know there wasn't. Well, you can deny it all you want, but that doesn't change whether or not it was actually there. Sometimes irrelevancies are introduced into a discussion when someone attacks a counter argument to his or her position rather than offering an argument for that position. Here's an example. The RAV4 was found in the quarry. If the photos show otherwise, it's because they were photoshopped. So they've made a claim. The RAV4 was found in the quarry. And instead of supporting that statement, they have attacked a potential counter argument that might come at them. Like somebody might say, well, there are photos that show it wasn't that it was found on the salvage yard. So they are arguing that before you can even say that, instead of providing actual support for the claim that they made. And that is all she wrote.
Thanks, Julie.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't. I
No,
hope it made sense.
But as you're saying these things, I mean, essentially all you're saying, or not all you're saying, but I mean, the point is that it's very easy to make a crappy argument instead of a valid argument, because people will use all different reasons to you use these excuses or you use these types of arguments when you actually don't have a valid argument.
Exactly.
And we see that everywhere. And I just said to Real Crime Stories, I said I agreed with him that I see bad arguments from supporters just as much as I see bad arguments from guilters. I really do. It's just that I don't usually talk to those people.
Right.
But I do see them. I mean, I've seen a lot of terrible arguments as to why, they think Teresa is alive. or why this. I think actually a lot of crazy theories fall into the bad argument category.
I agree.
But then there are also other things with, I remember when Kratz had said, and I know this was in the middle somewhere, I didn't want to stop you because I can't remember exactly how you had it titled, but that whole thing where Kratz was trying to tell the jury that, well, based on what you're saying and the defense you're putting on, well, you must be saying that the police killed her, that law enforcement killed her. That's what you have to say. And Dean Strang kept saying, that's not what we're saying. But Kratz kept saying that because he knows that a jury is going to have a really hard time believing that any law enforcement is going to take that kind of a step, going to take that kind of leap, like to kill somebody just to frame this guy, even though that's not what the defense was saying at all. But he wanted to keep making the jury think that, because that is such a huge leap in conclusion, that he wanted them to think, hey, that's the jury to think that's crazy. Why is he thinking that law enforcement killed her? They'd never think that, even though that wasn't the argument. That was the argument Kratz was trying to get them to believe they were making.
Exactly. There were a lot of ones.
Good job, Steve. He said I called Kratz out on that in their sit down.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And Kratz made a lot of those types of arguments, because when your position is weak, you like you said, you use personal attacks, you use emotion, you use, to prey on pity, you do all these other things, you distract, smoke and mirrors. That's what you do when you don't have a strong argument. And when it comes to a court of law, when you don't have a strong case.
Right. Exactly. Andy, were you here when I was talking about the coroner stuff from the video? I worked that in there. It was fantastic. I don't know if you were here when I was talking about that. But I watched that video and I was like, oh my gosh, that's that fallacy, right? And I had to write it down real quick. Because not only did he, let me look at my notes that I made. Not only did he misrepresent what the coroner does, but he dismissed their requirement to be there and the coroner's value. So I was talking about the straw man fallacy, where he says that, a coroner just comes in and kicks the body and says they're dead. He's misrepresenting what a coroner actually does and using that as his argument.
And he said that they don't have any medical training, which is grossly inaccurate, especially in Deborah Kakich's case, where she was a nurse.
Right.
So I was thinking, like, how many professions are you going to insult in one statement? Because now you're saying that coroners do nothing but sit there and kick the head. They don't have any medical training. So therefore, since Deborah Kakich is a nurse, then therefore you must be saying that nurses have no medical training and that they're not important.
Right.
He also called her a nut. That's awesome. His opinion.
Oh, whatever.
And he kept screaming about the forensic anthropologist being more important. Well, where was one of those on the scene either?
Exactly.
Again, that's not even an argument, because they didn't have that either. So it was like, that entire clip was fallacies.
It was. And like Travis mentioned, when this came up in the live chat a couple weeks ago or last week, whenever it was, these are things that you want to keep in mind when you're reading. Like you said, truthers even throw these things out there. Think about these things when you're reading through Kathleen's filings. Think about these things when you're reading through the state's filings. Think about these things when you're reading through everything in this case and outside of this case, but as it pertains to this case, because that's what this is about.
Sorry, but even with the response that I was reading today, I kept saying, like, this response would have been exactly 2 pages long if they would have taken out all the stuff arguing about how she shouldn't be able to she shouldn't be able to do any testing, even though that was never what she was asking to do.
Right.
And so all that tells you is, like, you don't have an argument. So you're going to keep bringing up how she shouldn't be allowed to do this testing when she's actually not even asking to do that, because you have no other argument. You have nothing else to say. So you're just going to keep going on and on about how, well, you can't do this testing for this reason, even though who said anything about doing testing? We're talking about disposal of evidence here.
Exactly.
And the response is a perfect example of just trying to, like I said, smoke and mirrors your way through an argument on a legal claim.
And you know why they do it? And you know why people do this? Because it works a lot of the time. People buy it. And it drives me crazy when people buy this crap. Like, when I see people buying that kind of excuse me, bull crap. I'll say bull crap. I don't want to be on here cussing and stuff, but when I see people buying that stuff, I'm like, you're the reason why this stuff works. You're the reason why people can get away with this stuff. Like, no, we're not all going to be perfect. And I have to admit, I'm pretty gullible a lot of the time, but if something's pointed out to me, you know, I want to be aware of this stuff. And so I learned a lot in this class about this kind of thing. And hopefully it was.
And every attorney on both sides wants to try to play on emotion. Because if there's one thing that is pretty standard through every jury, is that you don't have people that know a lot about the actual law on your jury, but they do know about feelings.
Right.
And they're like, okay, they're not going to understand this from a legal perspective, so I'm going to play on their sympathies. I was actually just watching the movie A Time to Kill with my daughter the other night, and that's a perfect example, because there's no denying, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but there's no denying that the man was guilty, but the defense attorney made such an emotional plea to the jury that they couldn't even convict him, because they were able to put themselves in his position and, I mean, just completely ignore that he killed somebody, because of emotion. And obviously a jury should never do that, but they do rule on emotion. And so that's why Kratz was using that, because who is the more sympathetic character? Teresa Halbach, who has a young, vibrant young woman who was murdered, or Stephen Avery, who has been portrayed as the worst piece of crap that ever stepped on the face of the earth, and his evil family.
Right.
So who is the jury gonna be more likely to be sympathetic towards?
Right.
It's more, Jane says jury tampering, it's more jury manipulation, but that's what,
yes.
I mean, that's what attorneys do. They're playing to the jury. The jury is their audience, and they're putting on a show for the jury. And that, I mean, look at Johnny Cochran. Man made a career out of it.
Ugh.
I mean, and like him or not, he was good at what he did.
Yep.
Because he could capture a jury, and that's why, that's honestly the reason why I don't understand why Kratz was so because to me, I was so put off even before I knew anything about the case, just like in those first times he was on, his voice, the way he looked, he just screamed smarminess, and he had that high voice, and I was thinking, if I was on a jury, I would be like, this guy is just skeevy. I don't know. I don't even know how many words.
Yes, that's exactly skeevy. Yeah,
right.
He just grosses me out, even before I knew all of the stupid crap about him.
I do not think any jury would look at him and think, like, oh, I'm going to listen to this man. Now, in A Time to Kill, it's Matthew McConaughey. Absolutely can see that.
Yeah.
But not Ken Kratz. And of all the attorneys, Buting actually has the most charisma, as far as just being more charismatic to watch.
Right.
Dean, no. Strang is very dry, and he was the technical one. He would come out with the case law and everything like that. But it was Jerry that was the more friendly, and that I would bet that the jury liked. So it was just because of the mismatch between the reputation of the victim and the reputation of the accused, where there's no way you can balance that out when you're trying to plead to emotions from a jury.
But what juries need to realize, and if any of you are ever on a jury, what juries need to realize is just because somebody's not necessarily a good guy doesn't mean that they are guilty of murder. What movie was I watching?
He just brought up an example. Hold on one second. He brought an example that I can see this, because I can see this happening a lot. Because if you can see his comment, he said that there's a case where a father killed a neighbor after finding out the neighbor molested his daughter. The emotional play worked. Well, how many times have you ever said, if anybody laid a hand on my child, God help that guy if they ever hurt my child, if anyone ever molested my kid, how many times have you said that? And so, yeah, I believe that's probably happened a lot. Because what are you going to do? Are you going to feel sorry for the, if this father went and killed some guy or whatever? Are you going to feel sorry for the guy who molested this child? Or are you going to feel, sympathy for the grieving, father who was hurting for his child that was hurt? I mean, and traumatized? That's, you know, and that's what lawyers do. Sorry. So go on with what you were saying. I just want to point that out before it rolled off the screen and I forgot.
No, yeah. No, that's good. And very relevant to what you were saying. There's a movie that I've seen, and for the life of me right now, I cannot think of what the name of the movie is, but there's a guy and he's on trial for killing his wife. And he's talking to his lawyer, and it is discovered that the guy, his alibi is that he was with his mistress. And he doesn't want that to be said at trial. He's like, no, I don't want people to know that. It's going to make me look bad. No. And his lawyer's like, no, we need to tell the jury that. We need to make you look like a piece of crap for cheating on your wife. Because as long as you were at your mistress's house cheating on her, you could not have been killing your wife. And he went up there and said, this guy is a jerk. He cheated on his wife. She didn't deserve that. And I don't really like him as a person, but he didn't kill her. And this is why. And that was his argument. And I'm pretty sure it ended up working, but it's the truth. I mean, if you've got somebody up there who is kind of a jerk, but isn't guilty, and you try to paint them out to be a saint, that's never going to work. It's like Rule's song that he did, Ain't No Saint. He's saying, Stephen Avery, you ain't no saint, but you're not guilty of murder. Just because, you've done some stupid crap doesn't mean.
Another thing that's an assumption, or however you want to put it, though, because a lot of people think because we support Steve, we must think he's a choir boy.
Yeah, no. And I don't think anybody that I talk to believes that.
No, but they think that we must think that, because how can you support him? I said, I support him because I don't think he committed murder.
Right.
I don't think he's always made the best decisions. I don't think he's always the best guy. I think he's done some things that are pretty bad, but I don't think he's a murderer.
Right.
That's why I support him.
Right.
That's plain and simple. Now, in Brendan's case, I do think Brendan is just like a choir boy. I personally do think Brendan is about as close to a choir boy as you can get. Mm-hmm. But in Steve's case, Steve obviously did things that none of us would say were make him an upright citizen. Right. But that doesn't mean that, I think he deserves to be in prison for murder if I didn't think he committed that crime.
Exactly. The basis of the Casey Anthony defense when it's broken down and said it straight out to the jury. I don't know I didn't watch that trial. It was going on when I was in prison, so I didn't watch it, but I remember. I know that sounds funny, right?
I know the way you just said it so randomly. Oh, when I was
yeah, I don't care. But I remember when the verdict came out, all of us there, we were like, what? No.
My friend is very, very close to that case, and she knows people involved, and she actually lived down that area. And so, yeah, I try to stay away from that subject because she will cut a bitch if she ever sees her. Yeah, she hates Casey Anthony with a passion. We put everybody's life under a microscope. You would find something to say this person is. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This is why I say I would never want to be a politician. Why are those people nuts? Because you know that some skeleton is going to come out of your closet.
Skeletons that aren't even there.
Right. Anything, especially now when things can get easily twisted. I am glad that I didn't grow up in the time of social media. I am glad I didn't grow up at the time of cell phones, because people take pictures of you doing the stupidest crap you've ever done in your life when you're drunk in a bar when you're 21 years old. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I'm glad that those things are not for, that there wasn't Twitter when I was a 13-year-old hormonal teenager.
Right.
Because it's sure that those are things that I would very much not want to be recorded for all of time.
Right. I wouldn't put any of your subscribers to sleep. There's only...
and one of the things that my friend said about the Casey Anthony thing, I'm just responding to his question again, was that she said something about Jose Baez, and she's like, Jesus, there ever been a guy that hated his clients so much before? And I mean, pretty much. He pretty much hated her.
Did he?
Yeah. as a person, yes.
Mm-hmm. Let me check the GoFundMe. I haven't checked it because I was busy. Ooh, we got some donations. Daniel M donated $20 and Marilyn donated $40. She said, I donated because I believe in justice. I'm sorry. I donated because I believe in justice for all, and that didn't happen here. I always do anything I can to help free you, Stephen, and you, Brendan, because I believe you are innocent. Love you guys. And there's a little heart.
Thank you very much. That's very sweet.
I'll paste I don't know who's doing that, but I'll paste the comment. Oh, it's Fen. There we go.
I stopped worrying about that because you guys were taking care of it. And I was like, oh, I'll just mess it up now. Where is everyone? We only have 93 viewers.
I know. That's what I was just saying. I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep.
No, we didn't have that many to begin with. We never got over 100, I don't think. It's, because what, people are doing something else on a Saturday night other than watching YouTube? Come on.
What?
I know.
People are doing something other than watching me ramble on about school?
Where is everyone?
So weird.
Maybe we'll get more people coming in after they're out having a life first, and then they'll come in.
Right, maybe. Me too, Chris Moffat. I had a conversation. I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter about my Twitter picture. It used to be the picture of me holding the sign up that said I live on Avery Road. And he's like, do you even know what that means? And I'm like, okay, well, what it means to me might not be the same thing that it means to you. We got into this big old argument. And I'm like, don't tell me how I feel about things. We now have raised $1,665.83 for Stephen and Brendan. Thank you, Fen.
Oh, so now let's see, how much time do I have left? This is only an hour and a half. We still have 2.5 hours to go. Okay, so now our next goal will be 1,800 before we're done.
Yes, 1,800.
$135. We can do that.
Oh yeah, we can totally do that.
Yeah, easy. We just need those people. We need those people come in that were out on Saturday night. We need to come in and actually pay attention to us.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Who gets to have a life during MaM-a-thon? Marilyn, you're right. That's just crazy talk. I say that though, but I know there have been quite a few people that have pretty much been staying up the whole time.
They have. They probably passed out.
Yeah. Well, I say I passed out, which I did, but I still only slept an hour. I've slept an hour in, how many hours now?
I'm 3.
Relatively awake. That's the crazy thing.
Adrenaline. We're all going to crash on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Not wake up for 2 days.
I thought maybe it's good I only slept an hour because I'm done at 1 o'clock and I have to be on at 9 a.m. again. So I can sleep tonight, but that's not going to happen.
Well,
it's like
nobody gave 83 cents T. So everybody, please make sure as you're donating, if you're using PayPal, be sure to send to friends and family I
think we determined also though that if you use a credit card, then PayPal will take out a fee.
A credit card. Okay.
As opposed to a bank account.
Oh, okay.
So that could be why too that's happening.
Yeah. So if you use your bank account, there's no fee. And also make sure that you're doing friends and family. Or if you want your donation to be an even amount, like a rounded out amount, then add the fee in if you want to.
Who's got time for math?
Yeah, I don't have time for math. I'm having enough trouble with critical thinking.
And Taylor's going to come in and we're going to be like all just zombies by that point. And it's funny, just wait if anybody's still in here, because Taylor, did you look at those links that Taylor sent at all?
I didn't look at them. No, I just pasted them.
She warned me. She said they're very technical. They're very technical. But if you're really interested in what a death investigator does or in what a forensic investigator does, you'll find it very interesting. And I just started looking at the first few pages. I was like, is she nuts? Who's going to read this? But when you scroll down through it, it did give like an outline, and it basically says, okay, when, you know, photographing the scene, blah, 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 you know, arrival at scene, blah, 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 you know, and it does kind of list it there. So if you can just get past a lot of the technical stuff, I can see where it really probably gives you a pretty good overview of what a death investigator does and what their responsibility is and what a forensic investigator does.
So you're telling me they don't just come in and kick the body?
They don't kick the body.
That's weird, because, you know, I thought I heard that from a pretty credible source.
And she's not even a coroner, and she doesn't kick the body. I've heard some entertaining stories about how she's had to transport bodies and get them to body bags.
Oh.
When you have a 500 and some pound man that you have to stuff like a sausage into a body bag. Yes,
oh my goodness.
You have to get creative sometimes. But yeah, no, they don't ever kick the body. I've never heard that one yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
I better make sure I lay off the cake so that when I die, the medical examiner that has to transport me doesn't have any problems.
It's one of those things where it's horrible. That poor person, that poor man, his family was there, and there's no way it should be funny in any way, shape, or form. And yet it was really a funny story. Yeah. The family had to help get the person out of the room.
We have to find humor in things like this.
Like,
at some point,
especially when you do that for a job,
right?
Because you cannot carry that with you all day long. You're surrounded by death, you know, all day long.
It'll take a toll. Ooh, you have an email.
But there's that fine line, and I've talked to her about this before. There's that fine line between you don't want to carry it with you, because that's a lot of dark stuff to have to carry around. But you also don't want to become so detached that you become like a robot when it comes to dealing with death and these families and these people who have suffered a tragedy. You know, so it's a very, again, it's a kind of a fine line that you have to walk.
We just got a donation from a Mr. Ericoze.
Who's that? Who's that crazy guy?
I know, right? Thank you, Ericoze, for your donation.
$1 million?
It was 500,000. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. I'll accept it still. I'll accept it.
No, it was $20. So our total right now is $1,685.83.
Thank you, Ericoze. You are a good man.
Yes. Okay. So
and he's working this entire thing too. Yeah, watch out for that guy. Okay, Real Crime Stories is asking me, how about this is going back to the beginning of the chat. How about talking about using Strickland versus Sullivan and Dassey appeal? A lot of people either completely skip over that or don't get why the higher courts looked over, and it scrolled past and I can't read the rest of it. Hold on a second. Yeah, scroll back up. They skip over that or don't get why the higher courts looked over and didn't address the Kaczynski issue. Okay, there are two issues at play here, or several issues at play. When Len Kaczynski was dismissed, essentially, by Judge Fox, he removed him under grounds of Strickland because he felt that his performance was deficient, clearly. And that's why he removed him. Okay, I gotta stop for a second. Let me think how I want to word this. When it came time to file a post-conviction motion after Brendan's conviction, I can understand why Steve did not want to use Strickland, because there is one overwhelming problem. And that is that for Strickland, you have to say that the performance was so deficient that it prejudiced the jury against the defendant. Kaczynski was never the attorney during the trial. So it would be very hard to say that Kaczynski prejudiced him against the jury when he wasn't even his trial attorney. That would be a very hard argument to win. But some of the things that Kaczynski allowed to happen could have been argued possibly that could have led to the jury thinking a certain way. The biggest thing would be the phone call, because even though they threw out the May 13th confession, the phone call, part of that phone call with his mom was used against him. Now, that phone call was a direct result of Len Kaczynski letting Brendan be interrogated without an attorney there. And then they're the ones that encouraged him, well, you should go call your mother and tell her right now. And so some of that was used against Brendan. And so there could be a slight argument to make that his actions did prejudice him against the jury. The problem would be then, does that prejudice overcome the confession itself? Most likely no court would think that it would. That confession is very hard to get over. But anyway, so Brendan's post-conviction attorneys, they did not file the claim under Strickland, probably for these reasons. They decided to go with the Sullivan standard instead. The Sullivan standard talks about conflicts of interest. And so they tried to present it as there was a conflict of interest because Len Kaczynski was essentially acting as an agent for Brendan and an agent for the state at the same time. There are a couple problems with that argument, though. Just about that argument specifically is that he wasn't acting as an agent of the state because he wasn't being paid by the state. Clearly, we can have our own opinions about it, but he wasn't actually working for the state. And so that would not be a conflict. Aside from all of that, though, that's the way they were trying to get it to look at it. It doesn't matter that when under Sullivan, it was with respect to conflicts between an attorney representing multiple defendants. Oh, there's my daughter. Are you here early?
I thought you said 11:30.
Well, it's only 10:30, 10:40 my time.
Oh, I thought you meant 11:30 my time.
Well, you said 11:30, so I thought 11:30 your time.
Oh, damn.
That's okay. We'll start in a minute. I was just answering a question for somebody. And I think, Julie, we were done with our portion anyway, pretty much.
Yes,
right?
I was done, so I can hang up.
You can stay on with us if you want.
Oh, okay.
Well, you don't have to. I'm just saying you can if you'd like.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be rude and interrupt. Time difference.
No, you're not at all. It's fine. Well, we can start early. That's fine.
Hi, Taylor.
I was just explaining this one thing to people. So Sullivan actually deals with conflicts when it comes to I have to go to the Hangouts window because that's really weird to me right now. Okay. Sullivan only deals with conflicts when it comes to an attorney representing multiple defendants and how that can be a conflict of interest. It's like you cannot represent one defendant that might have testified against or snitched on another defendant and then go defend that defendant. That is a conflict of interest. So it was that type of conflict in Sullivan, and it does not apply to a conflict as they were trying to say between Len Kaczynski and him working for the state. That's it essentially. And yes, the burden is higher under Strickland because of the prejudice prong. There is no prejudice component when it comes to Sullivan, which is another reason why they wanted to present that. Okay, so let me see. Was there anything else before we get started?
Yes, Deborah. The GoFundMe says that $791 has been raised. So $1,665.83 is the total of the GoFundMe donations and the PayPal donations.
Here, I'll just show that right now since people, I want people to know.
Yes.
Of course, log in. I will just show my little screenshot of my phone right here. So this is our PayPal balance. Let me get the Google Hangouts window so I can see that I'm actually showing you correctly. So, of course, it's my screen. I don't know if you can see it. See if I tilt it.
$782.69 is the PayPal balance.
So that is the PayPal balance right now. And then the GoFundMe.
The GoFundMe, $791 is what it says. Does that add up to the total that we have?
I hope so.
I hope so too. We have a little spreadsheet. Here, look it. Hold on. Let me show so they can see. Just real quick. Share. Okay. Can you guys see the spreadsheet here? So we have this little spreadsheet that we're keeping track, and this shows how much is raised, but we're keeping track over here, the names of the people who have donated, how much they've donated, and where they donated from. So if it was PayPal or GoFundMe, we are keeping track of it here. And all the little notes and everything. So we have a record of everything.
And this does not include any donations that may have been made to Steve's trust, because we don't have access to that. We will have to find that from Mark later on after the weekend. I will talk to Mark, and he will have a record of anybody that donated to the trust during the weekend.
Yeah, because we don't have that.
Yeah, we don't have access to that. So we'll get that information later. Is that good?
I'm good.
Okay. So, and yeah, Real Crime Stories, that, yes, that's what I said. One of the reasons Sullivan was not on point, but one of the reasons they went with it is because it was a lower standard. There was no prejudice prong, as there is with Strickland. And the federal court, wait, said if the federal court saw an issue under Strickland, then why not rule in that regard? They can't. Only the state court of appeals could have actually adjusted the Sullivan claim to a Strickland claim. Federal court cannot do that. The state court could have, but the federal court can't do that. Okay, guys, we're going to move on from that. As of for right now, tomorrow morning, starting at 9 p.m., 9 a.m., 9 a.m. Central Time, I have no guests really scheduled. I don't have much going on. Travis is going to come on with me. And we don't know what we're going to talk about. Travis was going to think about some ideas. So if you guys have these general legal questions, and you want to discuss that tomorrow, pop on tomorrow morning between 9 and 1, because we really don't have anything specific planned to talk about. So it would be a really good day to answer these types of questions when we don't have other subjects going on. Okay. All right. So then I already gave you guys this a little bit. I didn't expect her to be on until a little bit later. So we only have 95 people again. It went up a little bit and then it went back down again. Anyway, so I want to welcome to our broadcast, to our live stream, this very special guest, my daughter, Taylor Strunzi. And I gave you a little bit of a background. Obviously, she's my daughter, so she's amazing. But she went to the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, and she earned bachelor's degrees in both forensic investigation and biology. And she is currently a senior at, or not a senior. How do you describe that for a master's program?
The second year.
Year of a master's program.
Yeah.
And she will be graduating in a couple weeks with her master's in medical legal and death investigation. And so, oh no, we were, until Taylor popped in an hour earlier than we expected. So that's
sorry.
You don't need to apologize. It's fine. We planned on getting to this, but we were killing time in between that. But now that she's here, I want to get to what she came here to talk about. So what I wanted to talk to Taylor about, and why I asked her to come on, was because I feel like she can give us a good handle on what the difference is now between experience, education, training, and people who are in her type of program now, and what she's learning versus the 8 hours of evidence tech training that we have been reading about, or Nick Stalky's 40 hours of forensic courses that he took, and what will change because of that, how that can affect wrongful convictions and the justice system in general going forward. And so those types of things, as well as what it is she does, and I'm going to let her answer all that stuff. But that's why I asked her to come on. And she always thinks like, oh, I'm not interesting. Yeah, you are. You're very interesting. So why don't you start by telling us what kind of courses you had to take for your forensic investigation degree to start with?
Okay. So for undergrad, grad, or just in general, like my whole.
Start with undergrad, because I want to get a full picture of your education that you have.
So for my biology degree, mine was not very specialized. It was just a comprehensive one. So I took the basic evolution and ecology, cell biology, anatomy and physiology, microbiology, a bunch of random labs, basic stuff like that. And then for my forensics one, UW-Platteville, when I was there at the time, really more specialized in more crime scene technician stuff. They didn't specialize in death investigation. So most of my classes were geared toward forensic photography, how to pack evidence collection, crime scene processing, intro to crime scene investigation, where we learned about how to do proper sketches and notes and photographs and how to block off a crime scene.
You took photographs of a crime scene?
Yeah.
When there's dead bodies, do you take pictures of that?
Well, I mean, now I do. That's part of my job.
I'm being sarcastic. Just
right.
for everybody in the chat, I'm being sarcastic.
Yes, in general, you should be taking pictures of the dead bodies, but apparently some people don't. So, so then I did like a general criminalistics class, which covered basic like DNA analysis, hair analysis, and then a fingerprinting course, like how to lift fingerprints, analyzing them. And then I took like victimology, forensic criminology. I took a courtroom evidence class of like learning how to testify as an expert witness, and criminal law, and a bunch of other criminal justice classes. So that kind of sums it up, really.
And that was just undergrad?
That was just undergrad, yeah.
Okay. So then what have you taken now as part of your master's program?
So because I am focusing solely on death investigation, I took medical legal death investigation 1 and 2, which solely focuses on death investigation. So between both of it's a very unique program in that we have a very special relationship with the local medical examiner's office. So I was actually able to be on call with the ME's office during my second semester, to actually go on scenes with the investigators. And then I would actually go in and view the autopsies as well, write reports on them. And then I would do mock scenes. So like my professor would create a scene and then we'd be expected to write a report on it. But then I would also do real reports on the scenes I actually attended. And those reports at minimum were about 8 pages long, full of detail. And then we would go into depth about how to talk to next of kin, like more about the biology and like what type of postmortem changes to kind of look for, what to look for at the scene, and what things to consider when we're at a crime scene. And then especially in my number 2 class, we focused a lot on infant deaths because that's kind of a whole different realm of investigation, especially because most of the time infant deaths, a lot of them are transported to the hospital. So you're not even really at the home when you're doing these interviews and this evaluations of the scene. You're really at the hospital when there's a lot more chaos going on. So that's kind of, they focus a lot more on how to do like the interviews for that. And then I did my big research project at the end. So that was kind of like just my death investigation class. And then I took a forensic pathology class, which just focused on forensic pathology and the diseases and different types of trauma that happen to the body, and like how to tell like the difference between like sharp force trauma and blunt force trauma, et cetera, et cetera. And then I took a bloodstain 1 and 2 class. I'm in number 2 right now, and that focuses on how all the different type of blood stains, what the different presumptive blood tests, how to analyze the blood stains, and how to collect blood stains correctly, and that kind of fun stuff. And then I took 2 classes on how to testify as an expert witness again. And then I did another crime scene investigation course, which is kind of the same thing as I did in undergrad, but it's required for my degree. And then right now I'm in a forensic linguistics course, which actually is very interesting. It focuses on how language influences the law, which I find is very useful, especially it's forensic linguistics is used a lot in law. But I also find it very interesting, like when you're looking at interviews and interrogations specifically. And then I'm in a quality assurance and ethics class, which is basically a class to teach you to be an ethical person in forensic science. I think more people should be taking that. So
I agree.
So that's kind of a summary of like my, and then I took another anatomy class, but like, that's like essentially my program.
So the point being that your education and training is more than either an 8-hour class or a 40-hour forensics class that any of the people that we have learned about in this case have taken.
I have had about 6 years.
Yes.
6 years and like 4 internships of over 40-hour weeks doing it. So, yeah.
Oh, Angie just said hi. Angie's in the chat. She just said hi.
Hi.
Just hi.
How many people are watching? I can't even see.
Well, you can't see the people watching, but I'm watching the chat.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so Well, why don't we talk a little bit about your internships? Because you just said you have so much experience in internships. Well, why don't you tell me about your internships that also have rounded out your experience?
So my first internship, it was at the Center for Homicide Research in Minneapolis. And then that was more of an academic-based internship. And that was really great to start off with because I got the feel of like how to even start conducting research and learning about different type of homicides. And it was a lot more psychology-based, and I really liked that. And I got exposed to various different types of really crimes and seeing patterns within crimes. And I learned how to like request documents from government agencies in more like desk investigative type work. So then after that, I went to the Milwaukee District Attorney's Office. And when I was there, I was a victim witness advocate. So I would, when the case, and I was mostly for the gun unit. So when cases would come through, I would like update them on their case, send them emails, mail, but then really the biggest stuff that I did is when it was time for their court date, I would kind of be their shoulder to cry on, or their support system, like the day of the trial. Anything they needed, I was there for. And then if they ever needed help, like if the lawyer ever needed help explaining something, or needed someone there to kind of support them when they were talking them through something, I was kind of there with them. And then occasionally, like when they would be watching like the court in session, if they didn't understand something, I was the one there to explain it to them at that moment what was happening. Because obviously the lawyer can't really like come between like the observing room from the main room. So
I'm just hold on 1 second. Julie or Fen, can one of you tweet maybe that now we're talking about the forensic investigation stuff since it's earlier than we planned, to see if maybe we can get a few more people in here? Would one of you mind? Or the death investigation, both of them, add forensic investigation, death investigation.
I feel bad. I can also like stay on later.
No, you're fine. I just want to make sure people know, because I never gave a specific time except for in the beginning here. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to maybe put that out there before you went too far. So give people a chance to get in here. Okay, so you were going on about you just went to the district attorney's office as a victim witness advocate. Okay, and so then what else?
So then I worked at interned at one of the local medical examiner's offices in town, and that I worked full time, where I was actually attending scenes, I was taking the photographs, I was writing down the notes, I was viewing autopsies for like straight autopsies for 3 weeks straight, and then I would go and actually write the summaries for the cases to give to the forensic pathologists, and then I would go and practice writing my own full reports on them. One of the interesting things is that not every, as I think we'll probably touch on later, is that every county is different, which is exciting and very frustrating about forensics. But for this county specifically, the death investigators actually did the notifications of death. So I witnessed how to like give a death notification to families. And then I talked to a lot of next of kin and how to do next of kin interviews. And I worked with like how to work with hospice cases and work with other agencies. So essentially I was doing what I'm going to be doing full time starting in May, August. I started that. And then finally I did a forensic pathology internship with the medical examiner's office where I go to school. And that was just basically all autopsy. I went on 2 scenes, but it was basically all like 25 hours a week. I'd go into the medical examiners and I would just sit and watch autopsies all day. They begin to look the same after a while.
They do.
So, and then while I was there though, I also did a lot of quality assurance work because that's really important. So I get to go and like actually look through a lot of the old files and make sure that there are no mistakes made and like update them and actually make them electronic so people can actually view them. So
I laugh, and I'm not laughing at you. I laugh because if you understood this case and how bad the documentation is and how everything is so piss poorly handled, you would laugh too, because I can imagine everyone watching that has read this stuff be like, you know, like it's amazing, like what a little or a lot of education and good training could have done to this case. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, like obviously, like as you said, I'm not like super rehearsed on the case, but from what I've read, like everyone kind of failed pretty hard. So
I guess I should mention that you actually did not watch Making a Murderer. You started to, but then you couldn't watch it.
I was just too busy. I'm sorry.
You said you wanted to throw things at the TV too when you had the
it was frustrating.
Yeah. So I want you to know that already at 23 years old, your CV is more impressive than a single expert in this case.
I mean,
investigated that anything. It's true. I mean, do people agree with me? Do you agree in the chat? Based on what we know about the experts and the people who handled this case, like I said, her CV, and I mean, I will admit her CV is actually very impressive for somebody.
I can give you her CV if you want to see it.
yeah, I'll be happy to share it with anybody. But
Russ had a question for Taylor.
Okay.
He wants to know if Taylor would know if or how to swap swabs and plant evidence like the blood in the RAV4 or the key DNA.
I don't know.
Let's put this way in a way that's not going to make you sound like you're like, no, but you would have the knowledge of how to get away with something like that because you would know what an investigator would look for and what, I mean, there's nobody that would be better at doing that than somebody who.
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't because I don't specialize in crime scene work. But I mean, then yeah, like I'm sure they could.
Yeah, everybody keeps saying proud mama. Can you tell? I am a very proud mama. Why wouldn't I be though? I'm getting messages all over the place. Okay, so let me think now. Well, first, why don't you talk about, because, oh no, we'll get to that next. I want people to ask specific questions that they have about what we know about this case and your thoughts on it and versus how would it be handled. And I mentioned this the other day. The first question I'm going to ask is there any circumstance in which you would let a citizen onto your crime scene?
No.
I have to ask.
The only thing I understand is like, get off my scene. Like, so I mean, if it's in general, nobody but authorized officials should be on the scene. I mean, that's pretty basic knowledge.
Right.
Even like when we go to scenes and there's like, for example, next of kin there, like, and there's a body, for example, the next of kin is not in the same room as the body. Like, will they be in the same house? Yeah, quite possibly. If we don't think that's like the other, it's like the police already went through the house. Because like usually for like an MDI, like I come way later. I am not a first responder. I come when they're like, yeah, they're dead. So at that point, the police have already kind of cleared it, and usually the family is either out of the house or they're in an area where they already determined that there probably is no, like, it's not super suspicious. So like they'll be in a living room and the person would maybe be dead in like the bedroom. But I don't really consider that, I guess, like, I mean, it technically could be on scene, but like they're not touching the body. They're not infecting the primary scene, if that makes sense.
T1, I was going to actually say this, and I didn't want to interrupt her before, but when she said that she took a lot of classes in how to be an expert witness, I was going to ask if that included learning how to use a lot of hairspray. I was going to ask that, and I didn't want to interrupt her because what you just said, she needs a lot more Aquanet to be an expert. So you're going to hear like a lot of jokes and things like that. Who was on the scene? Come on, Hens. You know that they were on the scene. They admitted they were on the scene. If they were on the Avery property, then Scott Bladorn and Ryan Hilgis were on the crime scene.
Okay.
Yeah, they signed in on the log, so they were on the crime scene. So, okay, so now I know you haven't gotten, because when it comes to the laws that you need to know and things like that, that's going to be covered more when you take your state boards, correct? Wherever you end up working.
The tricky thing about it is that like each county has their own laws. Like each county does things differently. Each state does things differently. That's why it's really hard sometimes when it comes to forensic investigation. I mean, that's one of the issues in forensics is that it is so varied. Like the things like that we do in some of the counties in Wisconsin, we don't do here in New York, and vice versa.
Right.
And I guess an example I give is that generally speaking, the police always have jurisdiction over the crime scene. Always. We only have jurisdiction over the body. The body and whatever could have been the cause and manner of death, which usually includes like medications. So sometimes you'll go, if you're in a certain county that you have a pretty good relationship with them. Like, for example, my internship over the past summer, we had a really great relationship with the police department. So they're kind of like, we trust you. If you need to look somewhere to find like what could lead to the cause of manner of death, you do your job. We're here to help you. But then I've heard experiences from people in the county here in town where the police are just like, don't touch anything, don't do anything, just you touch your body and that's it. So it's very, very different. And that's what makes it really hard sometimes.
Right. That goes along with what we were talking about before, or you and I the other day, was as a death investigator, you are, well, tell me what a death investigator does. You talked about your training. What does a death investigator do as far as your job?
So I work for the forensic pathologist in a medical examiner's office. So the best way to really easily describe it is I'm kind of the eyes and ears from them on scene, because the forensic pathologist cannot be everywhere at once when an entire county is dying and there's only 2 or 3 in an office. So what I do is I respond to a scene, and then I am trained to be able to go to a scene and I take notes. I take all the photographs. I do an initial review of the body, noting any of the postmortem changes, any diseases, and then talk to the families if they're there, and I ask them about their social history, criminal history, medical history is a huge one. And then I make an initial assessment kind of at the scene, like, okay, does this look like it's a natural death and it can be released to the funeral home? Or does this look a little bit suspicious and I should release it or take it back for an autopsy? In those circumstances, for example, if I see this and I'm like, homicide, then I call the forensic pathologist immediately and they come to the scene, and then I just take notes for them and then they do everything else. But that's kind of how I'm trained to do that. And then I actually do a lot of follow-up. So a lot of what MDIs do is we're basically the people part of the medical examiner's office. So we work with the next of kin. We update with them on the results. We're the ones calling the primary care physicians to get medical records, surfing through the medical records, calling whatever places that need to be called, working with the other agencies, learning the DA's office, like alerting the police office, like all the police station, like police law enforcement agencies. I can't talk. So that's kind of what I do.
So again, we talked about this already, but so who has authority over the body besides you? Like when there is a dead body, who has the authority to overrule you on anything regarding that body?
To my knowledge, the medical examiner or coroner has jurisdiction over that body. I mean, from like my internships, technically we're not even, so for example, I was at, just for an example, a quick example for you guys, I was at a scene where I couldn't move the body very well. And we're technically not supposed to ask the police officers to help us move the body unless it's absolutely necessary, because it's not their jurisdiction. That's our body. But I couldn't, so like, obviously I gave them permission to like help me. And that was fine, that was okay. But in general, like I don't know if that's protocol for just the office I was at, or if that's just a general rule, but they're not supposed to really touch anything. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but.
Well, my point is that I want to, what I'm getting at, and
I know you're getting at about like the coroner that wasn't allowed on the scene, right? I know about that.
Right, because they would not allow her. So I mean, state law actually says that she has to be notified.
Yeah.
Not only did they not notify her, but they prevented her from being on the scene.
Yeah,
so that absolutely was a violation. There is no doubt about it. I don't care how anybody tries to spin it. And that's why I wanted to make clear that the only people that have authority over you are the people you work for, and that is the medical examiner.
Yeah.
in the four corner or whoever, a pathologist, whatever. But it's not a sheriff. It's not whatever. It's like that, like the body is yours. And like nobody has a right to touch that body unless you clear it or whatever and whatever, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. The forensic pathologist more so than me.
But that's what I mean. That it's somebody that is above you in that field.
Yes. Yes.
Not a cop is not going to come in and order you away from a body.
No.
Right.
No. No.
Okay. And so the comments that people are making right now is because did I tell you about I told you about what Ken Kratz said about what does a coroner do? They just come in and kick the body and make sure it's dead, kick it in the head and make sure it's dead and say it's dead or whatever. So that's what a lot of people are saying. Like, what you mean you didn't learn it? You just kick it? You kick the in the head and you can say it's
do the
dead.
good old drive-by. Yep, they're dead. Like, just kind of call it a day. Yeah.
So it takes a little bit more than that, a little more training than that to be able to do that. Okay, Ashley, get her out of here. Seriously, I'm done with her already. And remove her. I've seen like 3 comments and they're all written really obnoxious. So just get rid of her. Please.
Who?
Somebody in the chat that's being obnoxious and I'm not putting up with it. Seriously, I'm already sick of it.
Done.
It's bad enough people were being obnoxious like when Julie was trying to talk and everything. And I expect when I have somebody, and I don't care who it is, when I have somebody on my channel, I expect everybody to be respectful in the chat and to the person who is talking. Is everybody
see the chat or no?
Huh?
Am I able to see the chat or no?
No, not really, because you'd actually have to be watching it on YouTube and then it gets, until you're used to it, that's kind of, that would probably be, you know, I have not had any sleep. I've slept an hour in like 3 days and I'm just getting so tired of people. Like, we do these videos because we want to try to help educate people and inform people. And all people want to do is be rude and disrespectful to each other in the chat. And I'm kind of tired of it, actually.
What I do love is that earlier we were talking about that video with Andy and Ken Kratz, and then that whole bullpucky poppycock, there we go, about the coroner kicking the body was in my thing, and now Taylor's talking about it too. So obviously there's a big problem with that. Right. Because everybody's seeing issues with it.
Right. And so what I'm trying to show is that, and yeah, somebody was saying, well, just because they did one thing doesn't mean the entire investigation is invalid. Yes, it does. That does mean the entire investigation is invalid, because you can't block a coroner from the scene. You can't have nobody with any actual experience excavate human remains, not using any proper protocols, and then say that it was a proper investigation. And that is a huge part of it. Not knowing what those bones looked like in situ was a huge problem to determine whether she was burned there or not, to determine what actually was used to have this fire. So to say, oh, that one thing, no, it's a huge thing. And in every single thing in an investigation can be like that. What seems like a small thing can actually be incredibly important to somebody who is trying to fight for their innocence.
So just a quick opinion of mine, just from what I've known, because like I know about the coroner thing, we have talked in depth about that, because I'd be pissed if that was my county. Is that if, like, especially if they found bones there, like, even if you called a medical examiner or coroner, they would probably call a forensic anthropologist, because they're the people who specialize in bones, right? So not only like was not even a medical examiner or coroner called, but the person who specializes in burnt remains nobody even looked into them until later, correct?
Right. And that's the thing that also that Ken Kratz was saying in this clip that we're talking about. He kept screaming that the coroner didn't need to be there because a forensic anthropologist has more training, blah, blah, blah. But there was no forensic anthropologist there either. The forensic anthropologist in the case didn't do anything until after the bones had already been sifted and boxed and sent off. And that's why we talked about the fact that there were no photographs taken. No photographs taken at all of what this burn scene looked like. And then they didn't use any type of grid pattern when trying, and I know you know about this because we've talked about this, when you're excavating bones, because you want to be able to know where was this bone in relation to that bone. And they didn't do any of this stuff.
So
and go ahead.
I was going to say I probably have some great answers for this after what I'm doing this summer is exactly what it should probably have been done in the case. So
I'm reading comments too. Right. And the thing is that they would take like 7 pictures of something like, I can't remember, I can't even think of a good example of something so like ridiculous, but then you take no pictures of this woman's suspected remains and other real crime. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to lose it there, but I mean, when someone comes in and the first comment is attacking people, I am going to kind of lose my shit a little bit. And my daughter's probably sitting there like, yeah, I see this all the time, whatever. But but I don't usually act like that. But I even when I have people that might think that the guys are guilty, as long as you're respectful to me, I will be respectful to you. I am not going to call you names. I'm not going to do whatever. And so when other people come in and do that, it really sets me off. And especially when it's the first thing they do. So I was like, get rid of her right away.
People need to act like grown-ups. That's
right. That's what we said. If you're going to act like a child, I'm going to treat you like a child. I'm going to get rid of you. And I'm sorry that it happened when I actually have I'm not usually like that, Taylor. I mean, well, like I said, I can't apologize to her because she hears me yell all the time. But I'm just kind of like, I was kind of lost in what I was trying to get. And I felt like it just completely ruined like this whole thing that I was trying to go with, which I thought would be really interesting. The people that are interested in the investigation, are interested in this type of thing. And I know a lot of people that follow these cases are interested in forensics and death investigation. So that's what I was trying to go for here. And it got all screwed up because of somebody just being a jerk. And I hate that. Okay. Okay. This is true. This is actually true because Taylor, we did talk about this. They said they didn't take that. John Ertl said that he didn't take any pictures because by the time he got there, the scene had already been disturbed. And you said that you can understand that, but not in the case of where no pictures had been taken. Like you would still take pictures of it. No pictures have been taken at all, even if it had been disturbed. You would still take something to record it, correct?
For me personally, I am so focused on quality that even if pictures were taken prior, I would still take my own pictures in case the other person screwed them up because I don't trust other people. So I mean, I don't know. I could maybe see why you'd be like, I didn't take other photos, but at the same time, I feel like you still should have taken his own photos, especially, was he working for a different agency?
No, he was working for the crime lab. And it wasn't like he didn't take other photos. It means no photos.
My question was, who was the first people on the scene? So the first people on the scene were the sheriff's office, right?
Yes, the sheriff's department.
So, and he came from the crime lab, correct? So he's saying that he didn't take photos because it was already disturbed, assuming the sheriff's office already took photos, correct?
No, nobody took pictures.
So he knew nobody took photos.
I think he had to have asked because he knew, or I don't really know. I shouldn't say for sure. I probably knew at one time. I can't remember if he knew that no scenes had been taken, pictures or not.
If he knew that no photos were ever taken and then he didn't take any because the scene was disturbed, that just makes zero sense. If anything, you would want to take photos to show that it was disturbed, or
nobody should disturb that scene before a photographer takes it. So they're saying we're not going to take pictures because it was disturbed. Well, who was disturbing it? Because nobody should have taken any pictures. That was the thing. I mean, nobody should have touched those remains until we were called. I mean, there's never a good reason to not take pictures of essentially the actual death scene, especially when you're talking about cremains. I mean, that's just like the only way you can recreate how those bones were found and how they possibly burned is if you take pictures of them in situ, like how they were found. Because after they're disturbed, well, then you can say anything you want. I'm not going to argue with you anymore, but seriously, I'm not even going to go there. This is going so off the rails of what I wanted to go.
Just fighting right now?
What?
Are people just fighting right now?
No, but people are challenging everything. And I'm saying, like, I don't want to hear it right now from somebody who's a guilter and wants to argue about everything. That's not what I want to accomplish right now. And I have no problem with you. You know that. You're always respectful, but there's a time to stop being so damn argumentative. And right now, I just don't want it. So that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to interview somebody about their job. Okay, let me do it. Everybody's like, okay, Tracy's having a meltdown, no sleep whatsoever. But Jesus, people, Come on, have a little bit of respect for once.
Well, and there's a time and a place, and Thomas Tracy has asked if we can save this for another time.
Right. You argue with people all day long, every day about this case. Can you just not do it right now when I am actually trying to interview somebody? I don't care if it's my daughter or not. I'm trying to interview somebody about what they do and how it applies to this case.
Right.
You don't like what I have to say, don't like my opinion. I don't care right now. I really don't. That's not what this is right now. Shut up. Shut up, Eric Losey. Who do you think you are, Carla? I can't write in time where Tracy is being a boss. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that. I mean, I know you're not a bad guy. I know you're always respectful, but it's just like when we address something, you keep on. It's like I said, this has completely gone not where I wanted it to go because of that. You know, and I don't want that. I want this to be informative and educational for everybody to understand.
Take notes, Thomas, and we can talk about it later.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you, Russell. I appreciate it. You guys, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm not trying to be mean. It's just like I really would like it if people could just not be difficult for a little while. But Thomas apologized. I appreciate that, and everybody is good. Oh God, Haggerty. Hi. You came in at the worst possible time. No reporting on this. Okay, so anyway, so Taylor, okay, so where I wanted to go with this was that I wanted to know, since we got so off, let's try to go a different direction with this. How do you feel like, what is your belief about things such as wrongful convictions? I mean, you are well aware that these are real things, correct? That these things happen.
Yeah, they happen all the time.
Right. And you are very you understand very well that there are false confessions, that people will confess the things that they haven't done.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, we just had a whole section on that in my forensic linguistics class about the read technique and how the read techniques leads to a lot of false confessions, especially in adolescence, which I know that was kind of an issue in this case. So
yeah, and one of the things that I want to talk about that is, now, do you and other people that are in your same program, do you discuss these things at all? I mean, do you ever talk about things that are like how things were done kind of old school, like I said, the good old boys club, versus how you're learning to do them?
So we had a whole different project on it in my crime scene investigation course about wrongful convictions and the Innocence Project. So we learned in depth about that. And then my forensic linguistics class right now, we're actually learning about interview and interrogations and false confessions and 911 calls and all that kind of stuff. And then in undergrad, we touched about it a lot, and a lot of more so in my criminal justice classes and not necessarily my forensics classes.
Right.
My forensics classes were a lot more science-based.
So now what do you want to do with all this training and education? Like, where do you want to see, what change do you want to make in this system and that, the field that you're involved in?
What are my personal goals, or in general, what do I want to see within my field?
Both.
Well, in general, my goal is I want to be an MDI, but I really want to specialize in mass disaster relief and advanced human identification. So working with unidentified remains and working with mass disasters and making sure that people are identified correctly. Mm-hmm. And the correct families are notified, because that happens way too often where people are notified that their loved one has been deceased when actually they might not be, or they're in the wrong body, or et cetera, et cetera. And so I guess that kind of leads into what I wanted to see in the field is better quality, higher quality of work, higher standards being achieved, and just more training in that regard, and a lot more standardization. And I know I gave you some links that I think if anyone here who's listening is really interested in forensic science or forensic investigation, I sent my mother 2 links to share with you guys. And one of them is called Strengthening in Forensic Science, A Path Forward. And what they did is they went and they analyzed every single discipline within the forensic science community, ranging from odontology, pathology, MDI, latent prints, DNA, hair analysis, everything. And they talked about the good, the bad, the severe issues with it, and the recommendations on how to fix these issues, and like where to go from here to fix forensic science. And it's extremely long, but it's an incredibly good read because they did a very thorough job. And what it all really comes back to is just there's some really serious quality issues within forensic science. In every field, there's quality issues.
Right. And I think that's the type of thing we've seen. And that's why I wanted to say, how is that changing? Like, what is it getting better?
I like to think it's getting better. Especially in my programs that like I'm in right now. Like I was very much challenged in my programs, and we were set with an expectation to the point where I've seen, I was like, I mean, how do I explain this? Sorry, I'm bad with words, guys. For example, when I started my training here with my master's program, the reports we would write were 8 pages long minimum. Like, that's really long. They would take me hours and hours and hours to write. And then I would go to some offices or hear about some offices that they maybe do a page of notes, and that's the report. You know? So I think it's still really scary to feel that like there's some offices that still just don't care. And I know there's so much that plays into that. Maybe not caring, it's the workforce, that there's not enough people. They don't have the money to pay people more to write all this stuff. I think it all comes down to manpower, really.
Right.
But I like to feel like with programs like mine that are popping up, it is slowly getting better where we're getting extra training. But the problem is that my medical legal death investigation master's program was the only one in the United States at Syracuse University. Sure, there's tons of forensic science master's programs, but this was the only one for MDI specifically. So it's
when you went to Platteville, that was the only college in Wisconsin that had a forensic investigation program too, right?
Forensic investigation, yes, but UW-Milwaukee and Marion University had forensic science.
Right, but it was the only one that was an investigation class.
Yeah, mine was only investigation.
And Syracuse is the only one that has an MDI master's?
Yes.
You're such a pioneer. So why don't you talk, because you were talking about you want to do disaster relief and victim identification. So you're actually studying in Cyprus this summer for a couple months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you're going to be doing there that is going to help you get to your goal?
So while I'm in Cyprus, I got a scholarship to go. What I'll be doing is I'm going to be working, I'm going to be doing an archaeology dig. So learning about how to properly recover skeleton remains and artifacts. And then I'm going to be analyzing the bones and looking for trauma and how to tell different types of trauma on bones. And I'm actually going to be getting my certification in that, saying that I am certified to look at trauma on skeletal remains. And then while I'm also doing that, I'm going to be conducting my own research while I'm there, still working out the details on that, and then working with other cases, helping out high school groups that come through, teaching them about forensic anthropology and archaeology and forensics in general. And then I'm also going to be taking a mini course on mass disaster and kind of how to coordinate that, because mass disasters, so much of it really comes down to the coordination of, we have a lot of body parts. What are we going to do with all of this?
Right.
So
Cindy just said as an aside, oh, I miss eating at dinosaur barbecue. It's so good. I agree. We have to go there again when we're there for graduation, I think.
I figured, yeah.
Well, it was really good. She actually lives right like a couple blocks from there. So yeah, like going there.
I'm writing down all the questions to save for after she's done.
Thank you.
After
Okay,
you're talking
I appreciate that. I'm trying to watch them, but I'm also listening at the same time because,
Yeah.
you know, obviously the things that you're doing are so like crazy. I want you to also touch on your forensic palynology because you did a huge project on that. So can you talk about that and what that is and how that relates to forensic science and investigation? Or death investigation, I should say.
Yeah, so my master's, my big master's project was about forensic palynology and its role in crime scene investigation. And forensic palynology is the study of pollen. So sounds a little weird, sounds a little boring, but I'm telling you guys, it's the coolest thing ever. So little fun facts for you is pollen does not degrade over time. With that, and not only that, but pollen also is linked to specific plants in certain areas. So with that, you are able to actually, if you find a pollen and you have like main sources to like a database or like a certain collection to compare it to, you can trace it back to certain geographical areas. And right now there's only 2 of those in the United States, one in Texas and then one, like I think the FBI has one, because of course they do. But what I specifically did it on is how can we use pollen in forensic investigation to solve specifically cold cases and missing persons. And I found out during my research that right now it's being used heavily with drug trafficking and sex trafficking, because they're able to go and find pollen grains on these drugs and compare them to their already their raw data sets of like pollen from different plants. And they were able to trace it back to certain area. There's one case where they're able to trace it back to a certain area in China. And then this came through to the United States. So it's like really crazy that this is new and really upcoming. There's only 2 forensic palynologists in the United States, so it's not very common. But recently they, back in, I believe, 2013, 2014, they actually solved a cold case about a baby that was found on the side of the road. And they went back and they used an MVAC, kind of like that machine that like sucks up like little, wow, I'm blanking on the word. Trace evidence. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they found pollen grains. And when they actually analyzed it, they found that that pollen grain was linked to a specific tree that was only found in the Harvard University area, which was where they knew that the baby, they had an idea from like other investigation notes where the baby was from. And they confronted like the mother and like the other suspect in the case on this. And they actually ended up confessing. So like, that's how they're currently using pollen to like help with the forensic investigation. So from as an NDI standpoint, like, will I be using pollen to like solve crimes? No, probably not. But I really want to get into cold case work. So being able to like have that knowledge of like, we can use pollen like in this case that like no one's touched and maybe we'll get something. I think just in general, having that knowledge of other alternative forensic science disciplines is extremely important, because obviously like they got justice for that little girl because of a pollen grain. Like, I think that's pretty cool. So
that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I know I never really, well, you know, I watch Bones. So you always had Hodgins that was always coming up with these little things, finding soil samples or things that could be traced to one area. So it's kind of similar to that in my mind, you know, but yeah, I never really thought about it. And since pollen is so easily transported, I guess, you know, that makes sense.
So sorry, just to interrupt you, but I'm really excited about this. But a little fun tidbit for you guys out there, if you guys are super into science, is they're kind of doing something very similar with microbiology. So what they're doing is they have this theory that each area has its own specific type of bacteria that's very specific to that area. Like, sure, there's common types of bacteria, but some areas might have a rare type of bacteria. So their theory is that like you could have a case where they had an example of this man who, him and his friend ended up robbing a home. And they confronted the guys, and the guy was like, no, he did it. And the guy was like, no, he did it. So they like took bacteria samples from both of them. And then they took it from places in the house where they know things were stolen. And they ended up doing, comparing them. And they found that this rare piece of bacteria that was in this house was also connected to one of the guys. And he had that same rare bacteria on him. So that's just kind of an example of like where forensic science can go in the future. Obviously, this is super new. And I don't even think like hardly any studies have been published on it because it's so new. But like, that's so cool that like, this is where our field is going. Like, you can't get away with anything anymore. Like, you know, if like you're getting like bacteria like drawn to you and you can just get caught. I don't know. So I thought that was cool. Sorry, I'm geeking out.
No, it's just funny because people think it's funny how excited you get about it and how passionate you are. And I've told you that for a long time, because you used to work, even going back to when you did your first internship at the Center for Homicide Research, and you were so excited every single day. And I've never seen a person that loved working 40 hours a week for free, you know, in my life. Like I've never seen anybody who loved working for free so much. And I told you that, you know, you don't know how lucky you are that one day you are going to get paid to do this, to do something that you love so much. And you can see it when you get so excited about something that's new, because, you know, I'm always teasing you about the, you know.
My future boss, I met up with her, and we were talking about something, and she kind of laughed at me. She's like, I have a feeling you're one of those people that if we give you a paper bag and we say there's no evidence in it, or like no trace evidence, you're going to make sure you find some trace evidence in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just, yeah.
So what other types of things are coming like down the pipeline as far as forensic science goes?
That's all I got as far as that knowledge. I think right now they're actually, like, from stuff I've been reading, is they're trying to focus on. So as probably if any of you guys are really big into forensic science, how many people like in the chat like are actually like super into like forensic science? Like,
sound off, guys. How many people are like really into forensic science, or really,
or like super intrigued with it, or like know a little bit about it?
Cindy, oh my God, I love it.
Okay, cool. So
good enough for her.
Like, there's some really big
there's actually a lot of yeses coming through now.
Okay, so there's a lot of, and probably those who watch forensic science, there's a lot of controversy over odontology, bite mark analysis, hair analysis, mixed DNA analysis. Like some of those things, like that are question documents, is a huge one. So a lot of those are very like kind of people side eye them. And I think right now that's something like if you read the Path Forward, that link I sent you, they talk about that in depth. But I think they're trying to do more research to try to like prove that it's like scientific.
Right now, a lot of that stuff is considered more junk science. So are you saying they're trying to do more to make it so it's not such junky science?
Yeah. From like even just attending so I went to the American Academy of Forensic Science this past February, which is like the conference for everything forensic science. And I went to a couple of like lectures on that, and it's kind of, and they're trying to turn it not into a junk science, because like why wouldn't you? Like of course you want to try to. But other than that kind of stuff, like I really haven't read much more up on like up and coming stuff, unless it's like I read articles on like bloodstain analysis and stuff, and like MDI stuff, but that's so far that's kind of stuff in my field right now, mostly because I'm too busy.
I can't imagine why. You're the busiest person I know. So what else is there about like, okay, so let's go back to doing death investigation. What do you have to do when you're first called to a scene? What is the first thing that happens when you get called?
Like when I arrive at the scene, or just when I get called?
Well, even when you get called, like, do you have to find out anything beforehand, or do you just show up and then that's when you learn what's going on, and or you know, or do you know how much information do you know before you get there?
So I'm going to use the example for you guys about the office I'm going to be working at. So we get the call, and we actually get it straight from 911. We get an address. We get minimal information. We know nothing. And I prefer it that way, actually, in a little bit, because that way I know I'm not biasing myself going into it. Because it's so easy to get a notification. I'm sorry. Of someone being like, oh, I'm trying to come up with an example. Sorry, it's really hard. Drug overdose, found needles all around them. And then automatically go into that scene and be like, oh, drug overdose, like this is easy, blah, blah, blah. Like I never want to go in with that mindset, because what if it wasn't an overdose? What if it was a struggle? What if it was made to look like that? Like I ruined a scene at that point. So I try not to do that. So I get the call, right? So then I go to the scene, and then at that point, if there's an officer there, I talk to the officer and I get the initial information about like who called, how the body was found, has anyone touched it, et cetera, et cetera. And then I pronounce death, at my scene. So I go and I quickly pronounce them dead.
So you can pronounce death.
What?
You can pronounce death.
Yes.
Okay.
And then if there's family there, I will go first usually if there's family there, I'll talk to the officer, and then I'll actually go talk to the family first, because I think that's really important, because I don't want to just be the person that like flies right by them and is like, oh, hi, whatever. No, I want to be like, hey, this is me. And then kind of walk them through what I'm going to be doing. Then I go pronounce death, and then I do my body examination. And then I go back and talk to the families if they're there, and be like, medical, social, criminal history. And then I look for medications in the house, and I collect all the prescribed medications, and then I take photos of the entire scene, entire house. And then I call the funeral home to come help me transport a body. And then I wait. Then we get there, and I seal the body bag, date, time, take a picture of it, and I transport it back, and then enter all the information in, and then I go back to my desk. Then I write for hours. So, and make lots of phone calls.
And what are you allowed to take when you're because you make a preliminary cause of death at the scene, correct?
That's really, I don't know if I feel comfortable saying that.
Okay.
Because I don't have the ability to do cause and manner of death, because I'm not a forensic pathologist.
Okay.
So it's more
like a preliminary though, where you're saying like this.
I think it's suspicious or not is essentially what it is.
Okay.
Or if I know like, oh, this is an accident, then it goes back to the office, because anything that's not like natural goes back to the office usually.
Okay. And if there's evidence that needs to be collected off of the body, do you do that on the scene, or do you wait till you bag that up and then do it at the ME's office? Oops.
Sorry, it's so hard for me to answer that kind of question, because I'm like, a lot of this is just from my intern experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I'm not sure. I'm assuming that we try to leave everything as is. So we try to transport it as is. We bag the hands and feet because we don't want to disturb anything. And then, like, I think the forensic pathologist kind of collects it, but I could be wrong. I really could be wrong. I haven't seen it on a scene yet, so I haven't been to my homicide. I was so close, but I never got to it.
I didn't want to tell that story because that sounds so horrible. That that someone like didn't die, but then that sounds horrible.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell this story because it'll sound bad for some of you. I'm just relaying a secondhand story. But her very last day on her internship, she was called to the scene of a multiple gunshot, and she did not have a homicide the entire summer. And she called the scene of multiple gunshots, and they thought that the person was deceased. And on the way there, they were called off the scene, and they said that the person was still alive, and they were actually giving an interview. They were talking. And well, how many gunshots was it? 3? They were shot 3 times?
Yeah. So so the actual story was, we were at the office. We weren't on our way to the scene. We were like ready to go to the scene.
Okay.
But we weren't like on our way to the scene. Does that make sense?
Right.
And they were like, oh, she's giving an interview, so she must be alive. And they were transporting to the hospital. So we're like, okay. So I left. And then I came home and you told me.
Well, you came home and you were like, I was so close to having my first homicide. And you were like, it sounds pretty bad that I'm kind of disappointed that the person didn't die. But I really thought I had my first homicide. And so she tells me that the person went to the hospital. That's it. And then I go upstairs and I'm just looking at something on my phone, and I decide to look at like, oh, I wonder what this case is. And the first thing I see is like, woman shot multiple times, dies at local hospital. And so I went down and I'm like, was this the case? And she was like, damn it. Like, she died later on. And I shouldn't be laughing. That's horrible. But I'm just saying, as someone who was very excited to finally get to go to a homicide scene, I'm still laughing. This is where I say that this is something that is not funny. It is not funny at all. But
as my coworkers, when I came back, they were kind of like, we thought about you. Like, that day, we're like, poor Taylor.
And Taylor was like, she was talking. She was giving an interview at the scene. How did she die? You know? So she waited till you left and were off duty, and then she went and died. Damn her. Yeah. So anyway.
Crossover crime scene takes.
So
Like
rude.
a big moment for me.
I think this is what you call like, yeah, corner humor, deaf humor. You know, it's like it sounds terrible to laugh, but in the series of how it went, it was. Now, what were the most common death scenes that you had to go to?
Natural. All cardiac.
Those are the most common?
Oh yeah.
What are the most common unnatural deaths?
Oh. I don't know.
Well, didn't you tell me it was
I saw a lot of vehicular ones, which isn't really surprising.
I thought you said the ODs and suicides were the most popular.
Oh, I guess you count OD. Oh, ODs definitely then.
ODs were the most.
ODs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge opioid crisis in our country right now, especially with fentanyl and people messing fentanyl with carfentanil. Like people are getting crazy. Like, don't do drugs.
What's the most serious scene that you ever had to go to?
Serious scene?
Yeah, I think I know the answer, but
I went to a triple fatality car accident, and some background information on me is like 3 of my friends died in a car accident my freshman year of high school. And so when I went into this field, like I wasn't know how I was going to react to my first vehicular like crime scene. So the fact that my first one was a triple fatal with someone who was like my age, like was kind of like a very interesting experience for me. And I didn't like cry or anything like that. It was a very kind of interesting feeling. It definitely challenged me because I'm a baby investigator. Like I'm only 23. So like it challenged me of like the ability to separate personal feelings from professional. So that was kind of more a little bit challenging for me, I guess.
And you have had to go on death notifications already. Correct.
I had to watch 2 death notifications, and those are awful. And I will say that I love my job. I love my career I'm going into, except for that. So, and I have not had a baby death yet, and I already hate those. So I do not love that either.
That's good. I don't think anybody should love baby deaths. So that's a very good thing.
Really scared, honestly.
I would be very disturbed if you did enjoy baby deaths. Yes.
I need to grab my charger. Hold on.
Okay. Because Julie's been keeping track of questions that people are asking. So we'll get to that next.
Baby duck? A baby duck? Is that what you said?
No, baby deaths.
Oh, I'm like a baby duck?
Yeah, she's never been called to an infant death yet. And she said, no, I haven't been called to a baby death, but I'm not going to like those. And I was like, no.
Okay, no, I understand that now.
Yeah, if you like baby deaths.
Okay, no. I thought it was code for something. I was confused. I'm sorry. That's my bad. I apologize.
Okay.
Young person, young baby. Chris, were you here when I had my meltdown? Because clearly it wasn't going well before, but we've gotten into a good rhythm now. Once I got everything like back in order, I think everything's going really well. And Taylor, people are really enjoying the interview. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's supposedly a lot of questions. So, okay. Julie, why don't you start with those?
I'm sorry. Can you say? Were you telling me to go ahead?
I was asking you to, not telling, but I was asking you. Yes.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Okay. So this is what I have. And everybody in chat, if I missed your question, please ask it again. And I will, like when I get, if I missed you, then please ask it again. I think I got them all.
And I think I was right maybe about our theory before, because we have more viewers now than we did like in the beginning. So maybe all the people are coming home from going out and now they're wanting to talk, watch us.
Or what Taylor's talking about is a whole lot more interesting. That's what I think.
Right.
So
yeah, that's probably true.
2 of the comments, and before I get to the questions, Carol said, props to Taylor for all her study and work towards being someone who can do something worthwhile for the community and do it ethically and with passion.
Oh.
That means a lot to everybody here. I can say if I'm going to speak for everybody. I don't think anybody's going to mind me saying that. So first question is from Travis. And he says, so Tracy's smart daughter, What did they train you on identification of burnt bodies?
So I haven't had too much experience with that. I've only had one burnt body experience so far. But in regards to that, usually what they try to do is it depends on how bad the body's burnt. If you're talking about skeletal remains, I honestly have no clue. Hopefully I'll learn more about that this summer.
Well, that's what you're gonna
But
be
if you're
studying.
talking about an actual body from like a house fire, you can fingerprints. By removing the first layer of skin, you might be able to get a fingerprint. Otherwise, DNA at that point. Definitely not visual identification because that's just completely unreliable at that point. But I would be assuming that's how they would probably go about it.
Two people asked, are you familiar with rapid DNA? And if you are, what is your view on it?
But what DNA?
Rapid DNA testing?
I'm not familiar with it, no.
No.
That's what was used in the California wildfires to identify people.
Mm-hmm. That's why it got brought up, because you were mentioning disaster relief.
Okay.
Okay. T1 had a question. This is probably actually more for Tracy because I don't know the answer to this, but he was asking, weren't bones found in the quarry before they were found in the burn pit? Do you know the answer to that? We can look that up later, but
My brain is fried, so somebody else is going to have to answer that one.
Okay. So he thought they were found as early as the 6th, according to the dispatch recording. So anybody in chat knows.
Yeah, I don't even want to say because my brain is fried. So.
Okay, so next question for Taylor. What is the protocol for scattered bones? This is from Lisa. What is the protocol for scattered bones versus a body intact?
That's hard for me to answer because the scattered bones thing is more as like a forensic anthropology thing, and I'm not experienced with that yet. That's all stuff I'm probably going to be learning this summer, so I can't really answer that.
Right, I think you're asking not from your experience, but like from what you've already learned. Like, have you learned anything about how that would be handled differently?
I'm assuming when it comes to like scattered bones, you would actually have to set up like an archaeology grid and kind of work that way compared to with a body. I do my body examination as a whole body. Everyone does their body's examination differently. I do mine from that. And then that's it. I put them in the body bag. So
you have to try to determine time of death, right?
that's mainly the forensic pathologists, like they say the time of death, but like I'm supposed to help like find like indicators of what could be the process. Like, so if did they have any text messages they last sent? When was their last appointment? Are there any voicemails on the phone? When's the last time they got their mail? That kind of stuff. That's what I look for at the state to help determine time of death. So I can tell them, okay, this was the last time they were seen and they were found dead this time. So
don't you have to take like body temperature?
Yep.
So can you tell us what is the difference between a forensic pathologist, a medical examiner, and a coroner? Like, what's the difference between the three? Did you already say this? I hope you didn't.
I did not.
Okay.
So I will start off by saying the difference between a medical examiner and a coroner. So a coroner is an elected position. And a coroner does not need to be a doctor. Can they be a doctor? Yes. Are they usually doctors? Probably not. Most, like I know for where I went to school in Grant County at the time, it was an EMT. So a lot of them are like nurses, EMTs, some are firefighters. They come from some type of at least biology background, at least, and they are elected. And what they do is that they do kind of what I do. They go to scenes, they write the reports, and if it's something that's not natural, they send it to a medical examiner's office because they are not authorized to do autopsies. So then a medical examiner is a licensed forensic pathologist. And a forensic pathologist is somebody who has gone above and beyond just taking their like anatomical and like clinical boards. They got their boards also in forensic pathology and did a fellowship in forensic pathology. And they work for the medical examiner's office. And the medical examiner's office is appointed usually by like the public health commissioner or whatever. So they then conduct the autopsies and do cause and manner of death. And I believe coroners can also do cause and manner of death, especially for like natural, I believe, but don't quote me on that. But I know, but that's mainly the main difference from like a coroner's and medical examiner's office is that a medical examiner's office is a licensed forensic pathologist. Well, a coroner, like I'm sure a coroner can be. Well, why not? Like you be a doctor and run to be a coroner, but why would you do that when you get paid more at a medical examiner's office? But
right,
you can be. So
okay.
Does that explain it a little bit?
Yes,
more?
it does for me. I don't know. That was my question. So yeah. It answered the question for me. So the next question from Deanne Lynn. Have you gotten to see the field where they bury all the bodies to determine decay?
No, I haven't. I want to go to the body farm so bad though. I hear that's really cool. A friend of mine actually just got hired down in Tampa and they're starting their own like body farm down there. So I'm really jealous for him.
Deanne Lynn also asked, who is allowed to look for identification on the body?
What do you mean?
I'm not sure. Deanne Lynn, if you're still here, can you elaborate on that, please?
What was the question again?
Trying to find like an ID.
Who's allowed to look for identification on the body? Like a driver's license or like who the person is?
Yeah.
Driver's license? Oh, the police can. I can. Really, we just need to find identification. I mean, usually, like, for example, like if the identification's in a wallet on the person, then obviously I would find it. But if it's like laying on the dresser, or for example, the car crash scene, the police officers ended up finding it because they were the first responders. They ended up finding it. So they ended up giving the driver's license to us. So it's kind of, that one's kind of more of like whoever gets it first.
Okay, yeah, that was her question. Her question was if the police have to wait for you to check. Like, do they have to wait for you? Like, say they don't find it. Can they check the body for ID before you get there, or do they have to wait for you?
And I think that kind of goes back to like they shouldn't be touching the body.
Right.
So if they think it's on the body, then they would wait for us, hopefully. Okay. If it's like laying around, for example, if it's in a wall, for example, if someone like died in their bed and their wallet's on their like desk table, they can go grab the ID.
Right, because it's not going to disturb the body.
Right.
Okay. Real Crime Stories wants to know if you have heard of brain fingerprinting. Was it mentioned in school?
No, I have not. What is that?
Tracy, do you want to
that's something that they actually did with Steve, and it's only been admissible one time in the Iowa court system. And it's when they use, they basically use, I have not had enough sleep that I can't even form what word I'm looking for. They put like, a bunch of sensors on your head, and they watch your brain waves. They monitor, that's what I was looking for, your brain waves. And then they ask you predetermined questions, and somehow they can determine whether you're talking about a scene that you've experienced firsthand, or if it's something that you've only been told about, and that can be used to determine whether somebody is lying or not, or if somebody was actually present at a crime scene or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not really well thought of, but since it was used one time in a court system, Kathleen Zellner tried to use it, and my understanding is the science behind it is sound. It's just that in this particular application, Dr. Carwell has been very protective of his work. And so it's not something, he will not release his protocols to anybody else. And so it hasn't been properly peer tested because he won't give anybody like what they need to know to try to duplicate it. And that's the biggest problem with it.
I think my problem with it is like, would it pass the Dauber standard? Because it doesn't sound like it's something that's like accepted by the general science community.
Right. And that's the thing is that pretty much isn't. But for some reason, in the Iowa court system, which has a standard very similar to Dauber, that they did admit it. They did admit it one time. So that's why Kathleen tried it. But I don't think she thought they were going to admit it.
Interesting. Oh, I heard about that before, but that's very interesting, though.
Susan Sims is wondering why there was nothing at trial about cut marks on bones. Well, this isn't for Tracy. Did Beauty and String know they were actual cut marks? And if not, why not?
Didn't the forensic anthropologist testify that there were cut marks on those bones?
I thought so.
Yeah.
Was any work done on the bones that had cut marks on them to determine what made the cuts? I think they talked about that too.
She couldn't really determine, I don't think she had enough information to be able to say anything. She might have said like what, I don't even remember. But they talked about it, but I don't remember if she had an answer.
And then Cindy McKean-Elser also asked if you had been to a body farm and investigated the aging of the bugs.
No, I want to so bad though.
I'm going to jump. Real crime stories that actually was admissible. It was admitted into court, but that's not ultimately what the guy's conviction overturned. They accepted it, but it ended up being inconsequential to the case. So he likes to talk about how it was admitted, but in the end, that wasn't what got the guy's conviction overturned. It was something else, but it was admitted.
Mm-hmm. That is all the questions that I had. So if I missed anybody's questions, please speak up so that I can ask it for you.
Dave is asking, ever heard of Snapshot? What is that?
I didn't see that. Oh, there it is.
Snapshot.
Oh, Be Happy wants. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Dave, I don't know. Can you tell me what Snapshot? Obviously, no, we don't.
Be Happy wants to know, what is the body farm?
So a body farm is like a research farm where they have people can like donate their bodies, and they have various like stages of decay to study like how to work with like time of death. And they put them in a bunch of different environments. They work with a lot of the entomologists, like working with different type of bugs, all for like studying decomposition of the human body and like helping with like time of death and stuff like that. So that would be super cool to go to. I really want to go.
Hey, we got another donation, but my computer's
Oh, facial reconstruction. Oh, Dave, I know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Yeah, facial reconstruction from DNA. That's what Snapshot is doing facial reconstruction from DNA.
Oh, okay. I know what facial reconstruction is.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I never heard it in that kind of way, though.
Cindy, I don't really think so, because she hasn't done that yet. She even answered something similar before, where she said that's more of an anthropology thing, and that's something she's going to be learning more about this summer, but she hasn't had to do that yet. We're not going to say where she works, but her job title would be a medical death investigator. She's been hired, but she's not allowed to talk about it yet. It's not like it's official, but not official.
Not only that, but it's like I don't want to represent where I work, because these are my own opinions, and right. I don't want to represent, like I don't want to put like my company, like my organization's name on it. So
right, that's fine. I understand that. I said we were never going to say. I said I was going to say what you do, but not where you do it.
We got another donation from Tina.
Tina.
And $20. And we got a donation from Zelma a little bit ago, $20. We are now $44.17 away from our goal of $1,800. 44
more dollars we got.
You guys are awesome.
56 minutes, you guys. $44 more in 56 minutes. Can we do it?
We can do it. Yeah. We can do it. There's no can we. We can.
Yeah, there is no can, only do.
Yes. Do not. There is no try.
Thank you so much, Tina.
Oh, Truth Monster says, not specifically for doxing. I mean, what part of the machine is it? I know you're not speaking for your employer.
What part of the machine for what?
Oh, she was asking about where she works.
She was asking about the equipment, right?
What will her job title be, and what office does she work for? The hospital, the police, coroner, what rank? Is it a peace officer position?
Oh no,
That type of thing.
I work for the medical examiner.
Has what you both have learned helped each other?
Well, yeah, it's kind of interesting because my background, as everybody knows, was criminology and law, and I did private investigation. So my area is more the social aspects of crime. Criminology is more the sociological aspects of crime. It's a sociology of crime type of degree. And Taylor's always been more interested in the physical science. And so I was always more, like I said, the criminology, investigative law, and she's more into the science, wanting to dig into things and like deal with, I don't know, you explain what you are, but but it's kind of like we just have these two sides of the same issue. We just like come at it from different angles, because I have never been a science person. I don't like science. I never took more than physical science because I hated it. I didn't like biology. I didn't even like biology, and then I have a kid who has a degree in it. I never even took chemistry. So and yeah, she was going to minor in chemistry, but you ended up being a little short on that, I think. But yeah, so it's like we've always had an interest in this field, but just from completely different sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate, Taylor?
Yeah, that's very accurate.
And I don't know why you love science so much, because you didn't get that from me.
I don't know. Like, I'm one of those weird people. Like, for example, like I used to tell people when I was younger I wanted to be a coroner, but I didn't know how to explain that to people. So I just tell people when I cut open dead people. Obviously, it caused some issues.
That's adorable.
That's if I want to get really cheesy, so I was going through like my memory book the other day, and I found this piece of paper from back in 4th grade when we had to write like our about me pages, and on the back of it I said about how I was going to be a forensic scientist one day, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to handle dead people, but I'll figure it out, which it sounds pretty accurate to how I speak today. So,
but do you remember how we just came across your little kit that you got from Scholastic, and we came across all your books that I got you? Do you remember that?
For the audience, my parents made a terrible error and bought me my own fingerprinting kit. So it didn't end well. Yeah,
serious.
I had a great time. They didn't.
Right. Do people remember when you were in grade school and you got like the Scholastic book form, and then you would like pick out books for the month or whatever? They had this little like amateur detective thing, and so there's a book set, and we still have it. It's actually pretty cool because it talked about interrogation and what did it talk about, investigation, and talked about fingerprinting, and then it had a little fingerprinting kit. Yeah, that part was a mistake, probably.
Wasn't the CSI book? Wasn't there like highlighting and notes in it and everything?
Yes, you did. You highlighted and you know, and you were probably like 9 years old when you got that, I think.
I've always wanted to be in forensics, like going to forensics always. Like I never really realistically saw myself doing anything else. Like it was kind of like never like not an option. Like I was like, I'm going to be a death investigator. Like there's just no way I'm not. So I'm one of those really weird people. For a while, I wanted to do crime scene tech work, but then I was like, I don't want to be a cop. I'd be a terrible cop. So
see, the thing is, though, in the crowd you're talking to right now, that's not weird. Like that's the thing. It's like weird to be people you know, but the people I'm around every day, that's not weird. We're all like, we love this stuff.
Well, growing up, like kids thought it was weird. Like we had to do dissections in the middle school. I remember, and everyone would like just give the scalpel to me because I was the only one who wasn't bothered by it. So I think everyone thought I was a psychopath, but really, I just thought anatomy was super cool. But
yeah, and see, I never took any type of anatomy. Again, that's science. I didn't like science. I said I was a social science person, not a physical science type of person. And I like the law. You like more of the medical stuff. So I'm like, no.
I mean, I would probably choose to go to med school over law school.
You would?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I would absolutely choose to go to law school over med school. You know, it's just so.
I'm with you, Tracy.
Yeah. So it's strange that we have the same interests. It's just that, like I said, two totally different sides of it.
Jocelyn says, I'm pretty sure I've seen it on my kids' recent Scholastic.
You know
what? I used to
go downstairs tomorrow morning. If I remember, I'm going to bring them and I'm going to hold them up and say, this is what I was talking about. And they're awesome for 9-year-olds.
I used to circle stuff in those little things every time. My mom would never buy them for me. I want this and this and this and this and this. She'd be like, no.
You always got me books because you liked it when I read. So
Crazy. Because I bought you all the little mysteries because that I liked, like Encyclopedia Brown. And like all those books I liked when I was a kid that were all like mystery books.
Mm-hmm.
I did just read a normal psych textbook. I'm really excited to read it.
What is?
I just bought my an abnormal psychology textbook, and I'm really excited to read it.
But you have always bought books like that for fun too.
I know. I did buy it for fun.
There are a couple more questions, but I just wanted to mention that after Taylor came on and I muted my mic, I went and looked and I had a message on Messenger from my son. He's spending the weekend with his girlfriend. It's her birthday. And so I went to ask him how it went because he's giving her a promise ring this weekend. Aww. So sweet. Totally off topic. Sorry. But anyway, he said randomly, the emotional appeal fallacies made me think of Jim Carrey in Liar Liar, which means two things. He watched my presentation and I didn't know he was going to. And number two, he was paying attention to it.
Oh,
so that made me feel good.
That's always nice.
Yeah. So Real Crime Stories said maybe Taylor could explain mitochondrial DNA. Some may not be clear on what this is, where it comes from, and its use.
So mitochondrial DNA is DNA that's found through the maternal line. So it's only found through the mother. And I guess I don't really know much more to explain on it. So like when they do mitochondrial, like when they do like that type of testing, they take it to find out you can test just through that line of DNA. But honestly, DNA is not my specialty. I haven't done much work in it. That's about the basis I know about it.
Yeah, you have a general biology degree. You didn't specialize.
Very general biology degree. But that's really all I know about it because I don't do lab work. So.
Allie said, I think your knowledge and information have been super informative. Thank you, Taylor. It has been fascinating. Props to you. I studied marine biology. Love your passion for it. Keep following it.
Oh, thank you.
And then there are other questions. Jason M said, I know this is not a legal question, but do any one of you three ladies want to say what you think happened to Teresa? If you don't want to say, that's fine.
No, I don't talk about theories at all.
I
think she's dead. That's as much as I will say. I unfortunately
me too.
think that she is not with us anymore. That's the extent of what I will say about it. But yeah, I just don't talk about it.
Carol wants to know, Tracy, if you have any other family in this type of field.
Nope. I don't know where I got it from. And like I said, even though I know generally that she got her interest in it from me, again, she went in such a different area that I'm not sure where she got that from. I said, I don't know where she got the science gene from, but the interest in investigating and wanting answers and things like that, the inquisitiveness she got from me, the curiosity she got from me, but the science, not. And I do not know where I got it from because there's nobody in my family that's even remotely in anything like this at all.
I will say that like my original, like when I was a little girl, I remember loving the show Cold Case. I started rewatching it. It's
me too. Loved that show.
But the main reason I really love Cold Case is because I always believed that like I would be devastated if like one of my loved ones was dead and I would never truly know who did it. And for all I know, that person who killed my loved one is out killing other people. And like that devastated me. So like I got really interested in not only cold cases, but investigation work. 'Cause like I just really want to help people. Like I want to console those who are at the scene of the crime and help them handle death of their loved one. Be there, talk to them, be there, tell them. So everybody has a story, and I'm always interested in. I want to know everybody's story, especially like, the deceased too. They still have their own story, and I want to be there for it. So that's
Absolutely.
kind of how I got into like. That's why death investigation specifically like really appealed to me, is because of the human aspect of it. So.
Lady Shireen wants to know if you have done your if you have done in your studies blood spatter and how to interpret it, and also how insects can be used in crime solving. I know you were talking about pollen earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'm currently in Bloodstain 1 and 2. And in my coursework, we have learned about the different type of blood spatters, and how it affects at different heights, at different angles, on different materials, which is huge. And then that was kind of like those like 40-hour courses they talk about. That was kind of like my first semester. And on my second semester, we actually worked in sequencing, like trying to tell the difference between, okay, so here we have a blood drop and then a transfer pattern. Which one occurred first? Or here's a swipe and then a cast off. Which one occurred first? And being able to determine based on like what you see and different drying times, like which one occurred first. And then we actually then went into actual recreation of it. So doing the stringing method, it's super annoying. I don't like it. I prefer the trigonomic method, where you just calculate it out for where the area of origin is and like where the area of convergence, the angle of impact. And basically that's what those three things is what you use to recreate a crime scene to the position of the people were when that blood spatter was like occurred essentially. And then right now we also did a lot of presumptive blood tests. So I got to use luminol and Blue Star. By the way, Blue Star is so much better than luminol, just so you all know. I feel like Blue Star does not get any credit. It should. So there's that. And then
have you seen Dexter? Have you watched that show?
All except for the last season because I heard it was terrible. So I stopped it while it was good.
It was because of the writer's strike. That was a great show though. But everybody's talking about it in chat. So
yeah, when you start talking about blood spatter, everyone's like Dexter.
That was a good show. I loved that show.
When was it? What were you doing? And all of a sudden you were like, "Oh my god, I love blood spatter!" And I was like, "Oh god, what a weirdo."
Wait, what?
I got really excited about something, and you called me. You're like, "Oh my god, I love blood spatter."
I was probably really excited about something. I can't remember what it was.
Eric, the goal is $1,800.
$1,800. We need $45 more in 45 minutes. Well, now it's 43 minutes, but $45 more, guys, to get to my goal for this segment.
Yep, we can do this. You guys are awesome.
Yep, you're awesome.
And if you are not in a position to donate, share the video.
Yeah.
Share.
Keel over, honey. I know you're really tired. It's an hour ahead there, so.
I'm already like past that.
Okay, because I know you had somewhere to be in the morning. That's why she couldn't come on tomorrow morning because she has an event tomorrow morning.
I don't sleep anyway. It's fine.
So the other part of that question was how insects can be used in crime solving.
So insects are most commonly probably referred to when it comes to time of death. So each insect, I am not super rehearsed on entomology. That's not my field. That's a whole separate field in itself. But like using bowflies and their life expectancy, whether they become a larvae, whatever, to determine time of death. I have not actually seen that been used before because usually it's not that intricate. I think that's usually used like when you have like really decomposed bodies. Because at that point you do need to call in a specialist.
I'm going to answer something. First of all, a lot of people are saying like that, very proud of you and me, and they like this, whatever. And so I'm going to say a general thank you because a lot of people have said that. So thank you very much for everybody complimenting us. And Cindy, she's not a homicide investigator. So no, she doesn't investigate like their last 24 hours of their life, whatever. She might just investigate as far as, like she said, like when's the last time they got mail, things like that at their home, if it will help determine time of death. But she's not a homicide investigator. So no, she doesn't do that part.
No.
Now, if she was doing a cold case type thing, then she might do more of that type of, I don't know. But yeah, as far as the homicide and what she does work separately.
We got some donations.
Darren, you're so sweet. Best part of MaM-a-thon so far, including my meltdown. Everything has been awesome since I melted down, though. I have to tell everybody. So thank you very much for everybody like pulling it together and helping me like maintain my calm now. I really appreciate that. I just have to lose my shit every once in a while. Sorry.
I have to say that was a pretty decent meltdown. Like you didn't go too crazy.
No, it was starting before you came on. So yeah, it was building before you even came on, and then like because they were doing that when Julie was talking too, and I was just like, I just had enough.
I was completely oblivious to that.
I know, that's why we were trying to actually, you know, some of us were talking about it. That's another thing we were typing, trying to take care of it so it wasn't distracting. And behind the scenes, while you were talking away, we were trying to keep it away from you so you weren't distracted.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying not to look at it. At one point, I saw Travis warning somebody, and I was like, "Uh-oh, he's warning somebody. It's serious."
Shireen says, Tracy, you're a total diva. I love it. And I do not do that often at all. I just like, I seriously, I am working on 1 hour of sleep, people, in seriously like 3 days. So not the time to test my patience.
So we got a donation from Ashley G of $100 and Jojo Mary of $20. So we have surpassed our goal for this segment, and we are now at $1,875.83. I love you guys.
That's
You guys
awesome.
are so awesome.
It is so great. And I did get my one downvote during my meltdown. I have to try to figure out probably the person that I told to get rid of.
That's okay. Whatever.
So yeah, at least I know probably who it came from.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, good job, guys. Woohoo. Tina, you missed my meltdown earlier. It was pretty good. So are there any other questions so I can let Taylor go? Because again,
I didn't have any more questions written down. So
questions for me, Mom?
Unless I missed something.
Jim, have you been here the entire time? He said
anything.
hello, and now that's the first time. It's been like an hour and a half in between. I have an amazing daughter. Yes, I do.
No, thanks, guys.
Yeah, people are saying they found it very interesting, which is what I told you. Like when you keep saying, I have nothing interesting to talk about, and I was like, hello.
Here, let me give you guys her links again that she gave us. Right. I gave them at the beginning, but
how far do we live? Well, I'm obviously in Wisconsin, and right now she's in New York, but she'll be moving back this way. Hence, are you still here? Thank you for sticking with me. I appreciate it, and thank you for cooperating.
I should have separated those out. That's two separate links. So let
Thank
me.
you guys for listening. Death investigation is like really important, and I feel like a lot of people don't really know like what exactly MDIs do. So I'm really excited that I got to come and like kind of like talk about it. Mostly because I'm like super passionate about my field and I love talking about it. So
it definitely shows.
Yeah, I get really excited.
That's great though. That's really great.
The thing is that like I'm always like really excited. Like I am genuinely so excited for my job. Like it's really bad because I think I annoy a lot of people in my office because there's people that don't like their job. So I very frequently have had people like come up to me and just be like, your excitement, like just I'm like, and like they always mean it in a very endearing and loving way. But like I'm like always this excited. Like I just love my job.
Well, after you go to Cyprus this summer and are away from home for so long again, and you get your certifications and you do all your crazy like mass disaster stuff, and like it is not a parent's dream that like if a terrorist attack happens, usually you don't want your child anywhere near it, and my kid wants to like run towards it and identify the bodies. So it was like, why are you doing this to me? I was like, Cyprus is like literally like 30 miles from Syria. Like, why do you want to do this to me? But after she's done doing that, maybe she'll come back on and discuss everything she did about dead bodies.
That is literally just what everybody was saying. Can she please come back after the summer?
Yeah. I'm excited for it just because I've never done anything like this before. And I am really excited to kind of like push myself outside my comfort zone and like do this because like if like for doing like a 2.5 week, because part of the summer for 2.5 weeks I'll just be doing archaeology digging in 100-degree plus weather all day, every day. And I feel like if there's any time I'm going to do it, like this is the time to do it. So I'm like really excited to really just push myself outside my comfort zone and do this. So yeah.
I don't think you've ever had a comfort zone.
I mean, yeah, but This is like really outside my comfort zone. Like, I don't even speak the language over there, right? They're going to be giving me instructions in Greek, and I'm just like, you know, like, I really don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to have fun, though. It's going to be great. I'm going to mess up, and it's going to be great because I'm going to learn from it. So.
Yeah, you also learned when you were doing your autopsies for the first
time.
Oh
my God, guys, I have so many weird autopsy stories. It's so bad. I'm not going to share them, though, because it's going to make me sound really incompetent. But, like... I'm really clumsy. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm just really clumsy.
You're not even a med student though, and so when they're asking you to do things that, like, I don't even know if a med student would be able to do as an intern, and they're asking you to do these things, and I'm like, first of all, you work with dead people. Like, how bad of a mistake could you possibly make? They're already dead. So
what are you gonna do? Kill them?
Yes, exactly. What are they gonna do? You know, so if there's ever a time you're gonna make a medical mistake, it's on a dead body would be good.
Yeah, so I guess like a quick story, if you guys are like, are they interested in hearing like a quick story, like super quick?
Are you hearing an autopsy story?
I'm talking about the vitreous fluid one.
And that's what I was just referring to too. Yeah,
because I think I think that's probably one of my mom's favorites. Is like, so like on like the first week of autopsy, they thought it'd be a great idea to like trust their intern to take vitreous fluid, which, you know, like, I don't blame them. I mean, but now I do, because I don't trust my ability. So first of all, I'm afraid of needles, and I don't like eyes. So putting like a needle in an eye is like terrifying for me in general, even if it's someone else's, even though they're dead. Like, I was just kind of sitting there like, like, I don't want to do this. So I did it, and then I did it wrong, and I had to accept like sucking up the entire like cornea and everything, which you're not supposed to do. You're just supposed to do the fluid. And we're like, funeral director's not going to be too happy. So I don't know what ever happened with that, but
funeral director care. Your eyes are closed during a funeral, so
I understand, but I don't know how do you explain to that oh, sorry, our intern like really fucked it up. Like, how do you like?
Yeah, but how are they going to know? Like, I don't.
So I was never given. No, that's not a lie. That's a lie. I was given a chance again, but like that was like my first attempt at it ever in my life, and I was like, that couldn't have gone worse. So
you did well your second time though. You did it right the second time, you said.
I did, yeah. I got way better. I learned from my mistakes, luckily, but like I literally sat there afterward like it doesn't get worse than that. So
I get the most entertaining texts. I really do. So she's like, oh my God, I almost lost someone's intestines down the drain, but don't worry, I managed to save them. You know, okay, I'm glad I don't have to worry. You know, so yes, Taylor has very interesting stories between.
I'm never bored. I'm really not.
No, it's never boring ever.
A quote from a book that I read when I was in prison. There's that again.
I know. That out.
Life is about learning, and in order to learn, you have to make mistakes.
Luckily, I make many, so I'll learn a lot.
I do too. I do too.
Jim wants to know, did you ever drop your watch on a guy?
Okay, so I have a story for you guys. Just because you're gonna find this entertaining. So okay, so I was working at this Emmy's like Emmy lab, and this like lady, she's the administrative lady, like a little weird. And like obviously I love weird people because I'm weird, but like a different type of weird, you know? Like, you feel me? Like a little different type of weird. And I was holding the keys to the filing cabinet, and she comes up to me and she's just like, oh, you know those keys? Like, I dropped them in the body once, and they ended up sewing it back up, and it was a big fiasco. And then we had to go back down and open back up and get the keys again. And I'm sitting there just staring at these keys, just like, what am I holding? Like, she's just casually holding that, and I'm just sitting there just like looking at my coworker, just like I'm like, what just happened? She's like, oh, don't worry, I washed them. I'm like, oh, well, thank God for that. Like, what are you like? People are so weird.
Would you take a date to an autopsy? Hashtag Kratz style.
Actually, Taylor might do that, so we can't say.
Date to an autopsy, no, but I had a really bad decomp on my way to a date, and that was kind of entertaining because I had to run into a Starbucks and ask them if I could please curl my hair and like freshen myself up like in their bathroom so I didn't smell like a dead person on our date. It was successful, but it was very awkward.
Watch the decomp off of you before a date.
Tracy, I love your daughter.
All the time. It is like, ask Angie, because Angie's still in the chat. And like, we went out to lunch that one time, and oh my God, Angie and I were dying the entire time.
I believe you. I think everybody is loving this.
This was
honestly worth it though, because it was like the scene was so bad. I got to for the first time wear Tyvek, like head to toe Tyvek that you see in the movies. It was awesome, so worth it. But like,
I'm very excited. She is not kidding. That was on your birthday.
It was the best birthday gift.
Does everybody know what a Tyvek suit is?
I don't.
Like a giant marshmallow suit.
Oh, see, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
She had to wear that on her birthday to a scene, and it was the best day ever.
So I guess I'm actually kind of related to death investigation. So like one of the things that like I think we brought up earlier was about like law enforcement and like how they work with us. And I've noticed that when you have really bad decomps, the cops will let you do whatever you want. And this is a good example with the marshmallow suit scene. I'm just going to refer to it as that because it was so bad that the cops were standing outside the house and they kind of looked at me and my like supervisor, and they were like, whatever you need, just let us know. We're not going in there, but you just let us know, like whatever you want. And then I had to borrow a Sharpie, and they're like, take our Sharpie and just never give it back. Like just whatever you want. So like they like, so if it's things scenes like that, like cops won't like give you any issues. And most of the time, every scene I've been to, most of the cops don't want to be in the room. Like they don't like it unless they have to be in there. They'll like the cop will kind of like peek over the corner and be like, is it suspicious? No. All right. And no, bye. Thanks. Don't want to be around the dead person anymore. So like I have never like been on a scene where like any cops have given me a hard time. I'm sure eventually I will have a scene where the cops will give me a hard time. But so far it's been actually more entertaining of them being like, yeah, no, I want nothing to do with this. You're weird for liking this. Like, so.
Is Eric Gibbs still here in the chat?
Eric, you still here? Where
Are you still here? So when we were just under $45 away from goal and he asked what the goal was, he donated $45. And the other two came through first, but he put that through to get us to the goal. Thank you, Eric.
Eric is one of my favorite people. He's been with me like a long time through all my groups and everything. And
I wasn't trying to cut off your story, Taylor. Your story was fantastic. I just didn't want to forget.
I think I teased Eric one time. I said the only man I've had a relationship with longer is my husband. I was joking that one day. Because yeah, we since the beginning of MaM, I think for sure. Thank you, Eric, so much.
Has working with dead bodies changed the way you relate to living bodies or your ideas on what happens after death?
Yes. It has. I think it's just I handle death a lot easier. And I think it's really, especially after the summer, it really truly changed the way I view my life. Especially that car accident, the triple fatal I was talking about earlier. Like it was just two people coming back from a doctor's appointment that ended up dying from someone being a reckless driver. And it's like, I kind of sat there afterward, just like, I was really upset about someone, probably a stupid boy. I don't know. And like, I was kind of sitting there just like, I'm driving down this road. And like, if someone were to recklessly come and like crash my car, like, do I want my last thoughts be about crying over a stupid boy? Like, no. Like, do I want my last thoughts to ever be about worrying about something that truly never mattered? No. So it really generally affected the way I kind of view life. And it helped me like to take things a little bit less seriously because we never, no one makes it out alive. So it's just kind of made me, I think, appreciate the people I have in my life a lot more and appreciate moments a lot more. Just because I see it on a daily, like I'll be seeing it on a daily basis that like those things, like I think the little things we take for granted we don't really realize them until they're gone.
Absolutely true.
I just heard a story. I just watched a Netflix special about, and the woman mentioned a story about how, like, this family lost their 4-year-old son, and they said like he'd always slam like the patio door, like with the door, and like what they wouldn't give to hear the slamming of that door again, and to they'd go and slam the door themselves just to hear that again. And it's like, it's those little things that like I see in my everyday life that might make me annoyed that I appreciate so much more now, because I know like what I could lose. So, and I think like if you don't work in the like with death all the time, I think we really forget about that. So
that's really important. I think I agree.
I hope that answered that. So
I think so.
I think it did.
Let's see. Okay, what would you or could you do if you saw an officer doing something wrong, such as in this case, disturbing the body, evidence, etc.? How do you handle those situations?
Well, if he's touching my body, I'd say, do not touch that body.
What if they threatened you? What if they said they were going to arrest you?
If he threatened to arrest me, cool, I'll call my medical examiner. And then he'll call your lieutenant.
See, where was she?
I said that though when I said that.
He can't me. Try me. Like that's kind of like what I like. But really though, like it's kind of like if there's ever a cop giving me a hard time, really at that point, if I can't handle it on my own, I would just call my forensic pathologist, because they're obviously way higher up than I am. I would probably call the chief investigator first, honestly, and then the medical examiner. And then at that point, but I honestly haven't really had that experience. Actually, the place I'm working with, we have such an amazing relationship with all the officers around there, and I'm so grateful. I mean, that's part of the reason why I really wanted to work where I'm going to be working, is because we have such a wonderful relationship. Like everyone's so kind to one another. It's just, and everyone knows each other by name. Like it's great. It's wonderful. Like I'm so glad that I get to work in a place like that with not only just my agency, but other agencies. But I know, like, for example, I know there's people who currently work in like my county where I go to school where that happens a lot, especially the women investigators. Like they get put down a lot. So it's an issue.
I think people can probably just sense, and I know this because I raised you, but I think people can already get the sense though that you're pretty determined and you don't get help. You're hard to pull back. So I don't think anybody would accuse you of ever backing down when you know from what's right, and what's wrong. Like I know that. Well, I already know this about you, but
I consider myself to have a pretty good moral compass of like what's right and what's wrong. And the only time where I think I would ever question that is if it's in regards to like a protocol. Like if I'm not 100% sure on a law or a protocol, then I would second guess myself, because obviously I don't want to make an error. But when it comes to like moral things, like I like to think I'm pretty set on like what's okay and what's not okay,
And I'm not just saying this but that has always been your personality, because you were the one that always stood up for the kid that was getting made fun of. You would sit with the loner kid that had no friends. You like to stick up for the little person, like you were always like that.
I don't think I've ever told you this, Mom, but like in general, maybe I find this really entertaining. I went through my memory box and I found a little note from 4th grade. And I didn't understand it at first because my handwriting is terrible, still terrible. Things never change. But it didn't. Like my friends and I were fighting, and I was just like, they're like, "Oh, why are you mad at so and so?" And I'm like, "Because she cheated on the exam." And they're like, "So?" And I'm like, "Well, she needs to go tell the teacher." And she's like, "Why would she tell the teacher?" And I'm like, because other people studied and she didn't, and she just cheated. She needs to go tell the teacher herself. And she's like, "Well, Taylor, are you going to go tell her?" And I'm like, "Well, no." And she's like, "Well, then she's not saying anything." And I'm like, "Well, then I'm still mad." And then like the note went on, and I'm sitting there just like, I'm such a loser. Like,
no, you know what? They were talking about that in my class this past week.
Demanding someone turns themselves in for cheating. So I'm pissed off that I studied for it and they didn't.
That is a moral compass. Yeah, we were talking about moral value judgments in class this week, and that's exactly one of the examples.
A lot of like the things I see on TV, especially like with corrupt officers, like actually really infuriates me. for that reason, because I feel like it doesn't take much to not be a shitty person, but apparently it does. So it just really, that's why stuff like with like making a murder, like I had to shut it off, because to me, I just don't get it. I don't get like why people would make such purposeful mistakes or just do stuff that's so unethical. You know it's unethical. Like, you just know you're being a dick, you know? Like, I just don't understand why. Can I be swearing on this? I don't know. Sorry, I have no filter. We're
grown-ups.
Like, stuff like that just really infuriates me. So I literally couldn't watch MaM because it just made me so angry. Because I'm just like, why can't you just, if you found out halfway through that you were wrong, why don't you just admit that you're wrong instead of like chasing this person to, there's like, and like faking evidence, and I don't know, like it just, for me, it just doesn't make sense. So.
And I should mention that Taylor one day did get an email, because she had it set so that she would get like job opportunities like in her email, and she actually did get an MDI job position, you know, that showed up for Manitowoc County. I thought that was hilarious.
If she would have been there, maybe it would have been investigated properly, more properly.
Apply for it because they're too corrupt, and I was just like, they'd probably piss me off, so I probably wouldn't work.
She'd be punching everybody.
Her first do-gooder instinct was like, no, maybe I'm the person that can go in and clean that up. I'm like, stay away. Stay away. I'm like, no, you're not going to work. And I thought it was interesting, though, that they were even advertising for an MDI.
Wisconsin's hiring a lot right now. Like, so for the past few months, like when I was applying for jobs, like almost every county in Wisconsin was hiring, and I was almost just like, is there an issue? Like, is there a problem? Everyone is hiring. Like, good for me, but like, should I be concerned? But no, I guess there's just a lot of people retiring.
Good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like right now, there's like, I think there's like 4 job postings for medical examiners, like in 4 counties, and like 5 counties. I applied for 5 different counties in Wisconsin. Like,
the fact that you said that you think there's just so many people retiring, and then knowing that they're replacing them with people that are educated like you, actually is probably the best thing I've heard in a long time for this state.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Jane was calling Taylor sassy pants, like her mother.
oh,
It's funny too, because she said sass, and that's exactly what I was thinking.
sorry
Sassy.
if I'm too sassy.
No, it was a compliment.
I feel like I definitely sound like my mom when I talk about my career. I'm so sorry.
Why are you apologizing?
Apologizing for loving. Yes, everybody probably does hate you because you love what you do so much, and everybody wishes they loved what they do that much. But other than that, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's because they're envious, because they wish that they had that kind of love for their own profession. It's not because they think you're doing something wrong.
No.
I don't think you should apologize for that at all.
I
think that this world needs more people like that, personally.
And if it makes anyone feel better for like the future of MDI, like a friend of mine just got hired in Tampa, and like him and the other person they hired also have like a master's degree. So like they're slowly like upping the requirements. Because I don't know if many of you guys know this, but if you search for any MDI job, the minimum requirements are only a high school diploma. You can be 18 years old and go do what I do.
Well,
that's concerning.
Not as well, apparently, obviously.
Not as well, exactly.
And the thing is, I've had friends like throughout the past semester applying for jobs who've been turned down with their master's degrees because people have been telling them they're too qualified. Like, that's crazy. Like, there's some serious issues.
Yeah, death investigators, any type of investigator, it should not be something that you're getting your clearance rack MDIs from, because we can hire them without a degree. They can only be they'll have to be 18. And I saw that in some of the ads, and that's the stuff they need to get away from. And that's why you said it was good in Wisconsin, though, that it seemed like they were requiring at least a bachelor's degree, I think, in Wisconsin.
Yeah. It's now a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. It
can be a bachelor's degree in anything, which, is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Just somebody that's educated, as opposed to somebody who, like you said, they just have no experience in that area, and then they take a seminar over a weekend and they're an expert. that's what was happening in Wisconsin at one time.
Ooh, Taylor, how would you feel if you, with your ethical standard, were accused of falsification of evidence when there is absolutely no evidence of you doing so? What would you do in such a situation?
I'd be really irritated. I don't really know what I would do in that situation, but I mean, I guess I wouldn't be too upset about it because I know I didn't do anything wrong. So it'd be kind of more pain investigate me. I would, oh, don't get me wrong, I get super anxious about it for no reason. But like,
no, but I'm saying the whole reason that we are here is because there's somebody that thought I could never get convicted of something I didn't do, you know.
Yeah, I guess I really don't know what I would do. I would just kind of provide my own proof that I didn't do it. I mean, I know it sounds, obviously that's why we're here. So I don't know what I would do. I would just try to prove my innocence as best as possible. And I don't know.
I was laughing one time because we always talk about how Kathleen Zellner is, you know, like I said, she's like a pit bull. She's tenacious. She doesn't give up. She doesn't do anything. And she doesn't sleep apparently. And I think I said once, I said, the only person I know that could probably match her or like, you know, like give her a run for her money is Taylor. That is the only person in my life that I've ever known that could give her a run for her money easily would be Taylor, because she's the same way. Exactly. Just a younger version. So I would have a hard time believing she could actually, I mean, she could be accused of something, but her not, because she would just refuse to not prove that she didn't do it.
And if she's following protocols like she's supposed to, she's going to have things to back up why it's false, why none of it's true. These investigators in this case, if you can call them that, they failed to follow protocols. So
Right.
There's paperwork missing. There are reports that didn't get followed up on. There are people that didn't get questioned. There are things that should have been there were no photos taken of the bones. Things like that. There were things that should have happened that never did happen. And that's why they cannot prove without beyond a reasonable doubt. They can't prove that they didn't plant all this stuff because they weren't following protocols. And if they had been following protocols, then there would be clear evidence of whatever it is and not all of this hide and seek that is being done. And, you know, like Taylor, like you were saying, you follow the protocols and you would take the pictures. And even if you came on and they said they already took pictures, you would take more pictures anyway, because you want to be sure and make sure that everything's covered. And if they had done that, this wouldn't be an issue. But that's why I think that somebody who does their job like Taylor was explaining, if they were accused of something like that, they'd be able to be like, actually, no, look here, let me show you what I have, and actually have something to back that up.
But also, if you look at it this way, the reason like I also like back up and like double check the things I do, so I can't be accused of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's sad that, and like I'm glad people like going through my programs are being taught that now, but I really wish we had them years ago, because now I mean, if you look on the news, it seems like almost every day someone's being like released from being exonerated, or someone's coming forward about a crime that that they got away with or whatever. You know, it's like these are things that could have been avoided if people were just doing better quality of work back in the day.
Definitely.
Well, we're gonna have to wrap it up pretty soon. I've got 10 minutes, and I can see that you guys are gonna start up in the chat again. You can't help yourself. So I'm glad we are almost done now, but my time is up, and Eric Hosey's up next, I believe, right? Or no, who's up next?
I think Paul's next.
Is he?
Karen?
Eric Hosey, are you still here? Because you need to post that link again, I think. It's way up there now. I don't know if we can scroll back to it.
He did. I can get it out of Discord. Karen, Karen Gainey is here. Did you see my presentation? I was talking about that.
Hi, Andy.
If not, you should go back and read it. Watch it. Sorry.
And then what I think I'm going to do is that I think I am going to try to, I don't know. I don't know if I can download this because I don't have that, but I think I'm going to try to edit it to get rid of my meltdown and then just the second part of having you on, because everything was really interesting after that point. And then post that separately.
I don't think you need to take that out at all. I think that it's important for people to understand that respect is important, especially when it comes to an event like this.
Even if they watch this video, though, it's like they could see that and be like, okay, I'm done. Like I said, I think I would rather, because I think this part of it was really interesting. I think the second part of it, after that, I think people actually, because people started engaging, asking questions, and we got a little more focused on what we were talking about. So I might, I mean, this is going to stay up, but I might just extract that part and post it by itself too. So maybe more people can see it. The good part.
Good morning, Andy. Okay, Eric Jose posted the link again.
Okay. So what is going on? You're going to play that. We're going to play that. And then, or who's playing that?
That's his video. He's
going on right after I'm done?
No, it's like a little clip that is going to lead up into Paul's let me look at the schedule. I still have it up from when you did it.
I think that is what he said, but I just want to know, like, am I supposed to be?
Paul is next, but Eric Jose is uploading a video. Like, he's not going live. It's a little, like, a video clip that is premiering, I think, because it premieres in 8 minutes. It's scheduled.
Okay. Oh, so I have 8 minutes and then I'm done. Okay.
Yeah. I will paste the link. I will butcher that last name. I will paste the link to Paul's YouTube. Give me 1 second.
I don't know what's going on. Okay, so I just want to thank everybody again, and sorry about the rough patch in there, but I appreciate everybody kind of working with me and settling down, and it ended up being a pretty good, started out really good, and then it so I just had a little thing in the middle, but I do really appreciate everybody, like helping me out.
Yeah.
And thank you also for helping us get our segment goal, as we decided to call it, or however we were calling it. And what is our total right now, so we know?
Let me take a look. Right now, the donation total is, oh my gosh, we are almost to $2,000. $1,920.83.
Well, we've got 8 minutes left.
Can we get, what is it, $80?
We were at 1,300 when we started.
How many viewers are there right now?
103. Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. I thought it was a good interview.
$79.17.
More than 115 people in this chat, and yet I said we started at 1,300 something, and now we're almost at 2,000. That is amazing, you guys.
You guys are awesome.
Sound more often.
$79.17 away from $2,000.
Wow.
Right? Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
And it's funny because when we started this, remember I said that we are almost at 2,000 because I thought it said 1,800 and not 1,300. And so, yeah, so you guys, we have made like almost $700 just in this segment. That is insane. Considering, I've never had more than 115 people watching at one time.
Brendan and Stephen appreciate it.
I absolutely do. I appreciate it just because I appreciate that you guys are doing this.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Taylor, you want to say anything else before I let you go?
Just thanks for having me on and letting me gush about my career. I love it. And if you have any questions, I hope I could answer some of them with my, so.
When you'll be back, you'll come visit us again after Cyprus?
Yeah, I'll come talk about digging up dead people after I'm done with that. So thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Everybody wants to see
Okay, honey, I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye. Love you too. Bye.
Bye, Taylor. She's so awesome.
She's still there. She hasn't left yet. She's going to wait. Let me see what good things they say about me before I disconnect.
Well, she is awesome, though.
She is awesome.
And you look so proud of her when you talk about her.
I do. It's funny how excited she gets about her work is how excited I get when I talk about the stuff she does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm glad that everybody enjoyed that after, like I said, it got better after a while. I probably should have just stayed away from like the MAM comparisons, and that's probably, but I think I was trying to make it relatable to what we've been studying, and that was probably my biggest mistake. But yeah, I think it's interesting that she doesn't think, you know, she'll be like, I don't have anything to talk about. And I'm like, it's just say that nothing I do is interesting. And I'm like, you literally have done more in your 23 years than I could do in like 5 lifetimes. So, you know, and yeah, and I'm not kidding. Like your CV is very impressive. I look at it and I'm like, holy crap, how did you cram all this into 23 years of your life? You know, and so yeah, but thanks, Marilyn. Thank you.
Everybody make sure to click the thumbs up and thank Tracy for that fantastic interview.
Yeah, to make up for the 1 thumbs down I got when I lost my shit on that girl.
Oh, whatever. Thumbs down. You know what? YouTube doesn't see it any differently. And as a matter of fact, it makes your video more relevant.
Actually, yeah, someone else told me that before too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that
Well,
thumbs down.
this is going to stay here. I'm just afraid that the last part might not get seen as much because people will probably give up on it before that.
Oh, so you'll just have both. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to have both. So I want to cut out like just that second part and post that as a standalone as well, so that people can see that part of it, as you know, and not just the first. Like
I think that would definitely be cool.
Part of that interview. Yeah. I felt bad because she came on and I know she was already kind of like, I don't know what to talk about. And then I have a complete meltdown, but I got so pissed at that one chick.
Well, I'm sure she doesn't like people disrespecting you either. So
yeah, it's one of those things like only she can be mean to me, just like how like I can only be mean to my mother, but nobody else can be.
Exactly.
Same. Yeah. Thank you, Nicole, you guys. And again, thank you to everybody who donated. Obviously, we've been busy, so I don't have the names, but maybe, tomorrow, maybe I can read the names. But again, thank you guys so much. I can't believe we almost got to $2,000 in this segment.
I know. Oh my gosh, you guys are so great.
Be happy that was not a meltdown. I've had worse meltdowns, I will admit, but that was bad enough for right now. For this, it was bad enough. I'll use Taylor's quote. I just don't think it should be that hard not to be a shitty person.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, yep.
Everybody's saying that it's so great to have you back.
I yelled at Hans and he's even saying it wasn't that bad, but but he wasn't really I was mad at that one girl that came in and just was snotty to everybody.
Yeah.
No, her blue star, Dave.
Yeah, her blue star.
Yes, not her luminol, her blue star, because people underestimate it.
She's adorable.
Oh gosh. Okay, so I have to kill like 3 more minutes.
It was appropriately assertive.
Yeah.
So I will.
Like we talked about dead people for 2 hours, and now everybody's all happy.
I'm gonna check the donations again one
more
time.
Perfect. Thank you. Like I said, I doubt anybody. I think we've gotten everything we can get out of everybody, and I'm so amazed that you guys donated that much.
Karen donated.
Who did?
Karen. Karen Gainey donated, and her comment says, "Their lives suck."
Whose lives suck?
I don't know. That's what her comment says.
Oh.
Somebody else's?
I hope so, because I wouldn't hope you'd be giving money to people that you thought sucked, but you never know.
Right.
If you think I suck and at least give me money while you're saying it, that's fine.
I don't think she's saying your life.
No, as I said, I don't think that would be it.
No.
Oh, what? You're ready now, Eric Hosey? You mean, are you on time?
Yeah, it's a premiere. He's not going live.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Oh, Stephen and Brendan's lives suck. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you for your donation, Karen.
Yes, Karen. All right. Well, then I might as well. I want to make sure that something's ready to go when I
2 minutes. Let me go over there to it.
We can't have 1 dead minute of air.
Minutes.
I have to be on again at 9 a.m. and I have no idea what to talk about.
Do you have a guest scheduled?
Nope.
Uh-oh. Okay, so just so everybody knows, next is going to be Paul, and
I just posted the link.
I will. Here's the link to Paul's channel, And then after that will be, Paul will be on from 1 a.m. Central Time until 4 a.m. Central Time. And then it will be over to Allie from 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then back here with Tracy from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Isn't Travis supposed to be here?
He's going to come on with me, but we don't have a guest. We don't have a topic. We don't have anything. We're just going to go on.
And then Paul again from 1 to 5, and then wrapping it up with Eric Jose from 5 to 9 tomorrow.
I can believe it, but I can't. I was like, wow. Home stretch. Everybody's final segments tomorrow.
Okay, so there goes the premiere is starting on Eric Jose's channel. After that is over, head over to Paul's channel.
Okay. Then
I'll shut up because this is your channel.
Okay,
So
well, I want to end it before you guys miss anything. So thank you again, everybody. Thank you for the donations, and I'm going to see you in 8 hours. So meet you right back here. Bye.